Chapter 11-16. At the border of the Nihility domain. This was the training ground of the Nihility Dao sect. Demonic beasts ran rampant in the mountains, but there were also countless spiritual materials and earthly treasures hidden within. At this moment, a graceful figure in black was fleeing in a sorry state at the foot of the mountain. Behind her, a 10-foot-tall bear demon pounced towards her with its bloody mouth wide open. Billowing demonic aura turned into remnant clouds that swept in all directions, intimidating the mountains and wilderness. Xiaojiming held a blood-colored Ganoderma tightly in her hand. There was a divine halo rippling around it. It was obvious that it was not an ordinary item. Senior Sister Xia. Be careful. At the critical moment, a young man in white descended from the sky. His body seemed to be glowing with immortal light as he blocked the bear demon in front of him. Roar! Although the bear demon's cultivation level was also in the exalted realm, and its intelligence was not high, its physical defense was terrifying. It slapped down with its claw, and the void instantly shattered. A foul wind blew in all directions, and endless demonic aura fluctuated in the mountains and forests. However, in the face of this attack, Yang Yuan's face did not have a trace of fear. Golden light bloomed on his palm and collided with the bear's paw. Boom! The barren mountain shook and ancient trees flew everywhere. However, what was even more shocking was that Yang Yuan's figure did not even take half a step back. Instead, the black bear demon let out a sorrowful cry and turned around to flee into the forest. At this moment, it was only using 3 claws to run. It was obvious that the claw that collided with Yang Yuan had been completely shattered. Bastard, how dare you hurt my junior sister Xia? You're courting death. Yang Yuan's brows furrowed slightly, and a pretentious look of profoundness appeared on his ordinary face. Then, he took a step forward and the green rock beneath his feet instantly shattered. His figure descended from the sky like a goshawk hunting for its prey. He took a step forward and smashed onto the bear demon's head. Poochie! With a muffled sound, the bear demon's head instantly split open. Blood mixed with brain matter splattered all over the ground. Yang Yuan reached out his hand and put the demon core of the exalted realm beast into his bag. In just half a month, he had entered the 3rd level of the exalted realm. In addition to his jade golden body, he was at the top of the exalted realm. Junior sister, are you okay? Yang Yuan turned his head with a bright smile on his face, but a trace of doubt and loneliness flashed in the depths of his eyes. Ever since the supreme secret realm had ended, he had a vague feeling that his junior sister had changed. He would often be alone in a daze, as if he was thinking about someone. Moreover, the warm feelings between the two of them had been extinguished for some reason. No matter how hard Yang Yuan tried, he could not get any response from Xiaojiming. I'm fine. Xiaojiming shook her head and watched as Yang Yuan handed the Yao core to her. She sighed softly in her heart. Before she met Ling Xiao, she also felt that Yang Yuan was firm, decisive, and loyal. However, ever since she met the young master of the Ling people, Xiaojiming's mind was filled with that extremely cold and unparalleled immortal face. At first, Xiaojiming thought that this change was caused by the soul seal. But gradually she realized that was not the case. Especially when she saw that Yang Yuan was covered in blood and took countless risks to snatch the fortunes of the demon beasts, this feeling became even stronger. If it was young Master Ling Xiao, not to mention these wild mountain demons, even the demon lord of the extreme south wouldn't dare to disobey him. Sigh. Junior sister, it's been hard on you these days. There are only 2 months left until the Dao Heaven Manor Lord's lecture. At that time, we will take these spiritual materials and Yao cores to Dao Heaven City to exchange for some spirit stones. Let's see if we can buy you a superior grade immortal artifact. If we are lucky, we might be able to buy an inferior grade Dharch artifact. Yang Yuan's smile was gentle, and his eyes were affectionate. In his opinion, although Xiaojiming's background was mysterious, she rarely went out of the mountain like him. Both of them had tragic backgrounds. This feeling of being cared for should be the easiest to move a young girl's heart. Previously, in order to save him, Xia Zhimeng threw the spirit dagger in her hand across the sky. Yang Yuan would always remember this kindness in his heart. But, hearing this, Xia Zhimeng only smiled politely. "Thank you, Brother Yang, but I don't think it's necessary." Yao cores? Exchange for spirit stones? Exchange for an immortal artifact? The arch artifact? If it was before, Xia Zhimeng might really be touched. After all, these spiritual materials and Yao cores were all snatched by Yang Yuan from desperate situations. But you thought you were touched, but in the end you were only touched. If I have a choice, I want a sage artifact. After seeing what it meant to be the only one in the world, some desires could no longer be suppressed. Junior sister Xia? Seeing Xia Zhimeng's indifferent expression, Yang Yuan suddenly took a deep breath, stretched out his hands, and grabbed her shoulders. Xia Zhimeng instinctively wanted to break free, but Yang Yuan pressed her down even harder. "I know I'm not good enough for you now. But Zhimeng, don't worry, as long as I can find that cultivation method in the Sutra Depository of the Daotian Academy, I can get the real fortune of the Reincarnation Divine Palace. At that time I, Yang Yuan, will definitely reach the peak of martial arts, and you, Brother Yang." Xia Zhimeng shouted and interrupted Yang Yuan's vow. I suddenly remembered that there was a blood jade Ganoderma in the cave guarded by the bear demon. "Let's go and get it." With that, Xia Zhimeng immediately broke free from Yang Yuan's hand and rushed toward the ancient forest in the distance. Reincarnation Divine Palace? Peak of martial arts? Sigh. Along the way, she was already tired of Yang Yuan's grand aspirations. If it weren't for Ling Xiao, she would have believed in her master's foresight. Perhaps this senior brother really did have luck and could make a name for himself in the Azure world. But after knowing that it was all a trap set by the Ling people's young master, the more she looked at this Brother Yang, the more she felt that he was retarded. Setting a flag? Please, senior brother, wake up. What era is this? Junior sister Xia. Yang Yuan was stunned, then a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He didn't know that junior sister Xia was such a housewife. Or rather, she was silently feeling sorry for him in another way. The more spiritual materials they collected, the more carefree they would be when they went to Dao Sky City. "Junior sister, I misunderstood you. I, Yang Yuan, swear that when I reach the peak of martial arts, I won't let you suffer any grievances." Buzz. At the same time, in the deity battlefield realm, a golden dragon jade carriage flew across the sky. At the same time, Yao Guang and Jin Han had been waiting in front of the palace for a long time. When they saw Ling Zhao's figure land, the latter immediately went up to greet him. "Young master, you can walk around the deity mountain as you wish, but it's best that you don't wander around outside. Otherwise, don't blame me for not warning you if you disturb my clan's patriarch." Ling Xiao looked at Jin Han coldly, then turned and walked into the depths of the palace. "Before the Daotian Academy opens, I will cultivate in seclusion here. No one is allowed to disturb me. If there's anything, report it to the 13th Patriarch." With that, Ling Xiao stepped into the palace. Suddenly, endless divine light shone down and enveloped the entire palace. Now that the Daotian Academy was about to open, he had to temper his cultivation and combat strength in these 2 months. After all, this time, Ling Xiao was not facing people of the same generation, nor was he facing a third-rate force. He was facing the real top powerhouse in the Azure world. He was a saint of the human race who had lived for 100,000 years, the Lord of Dao Sky City. Chapter 11-17. Region, Sky Hall. Ling Zhao's figure descended from the sky, and he descended onto the square. "Young master!" Phoenix Rouge, Lin Meng, and the others instantly awoke from their cultivation, and they looked at the black-clothed and peerless figure before them with delighted expressions. "Come with me to see Xiao Po." Ling Xiao smiled warmly, and then he held their hands and headed towards the depths of the region. When their figures descended, they saw Xiao Po was lying on the ground within the ancient forest, and he allowed Xiao Yu to ride on his back while laughing heartily. Phoenix Rouge and Lin Meng instantly revealed a wisp of emotion when they saw this scene. Only Ling Xiao frowned slightly while his eyes revealed coldness. My lord? Mistress Rouge, Mistress Lin Meng. Xiao Po's expression turned solemn when he saw them walk over, and he hurriedly stood up and bowed. On the other hand, Xiao Yu hid behind him and stuck her head out while secretly sizing up Ling Xiao with a fearful expression. Even if she'd lost her mind, she was still attracted by this young master's immortal appearance and bearing when she first laid eyes on Ling Xiao. You quickly greet my lord. Xiao Po held Xiao Yu's hand and pulled her over before he spoke in a light voice. Greet my lord. Xiao Po, come with me. Ling Xiao's expression remained unchanged, and he turned around and walked out of the forest. On the other hand, Phoenix Rouge and Lin Meng understood tacitly, and they stopped Xiao Yu who intended to follow Xiao Po. My lord. Xiao Po bowed at the border of the ancient forest, and there was obvious nervousness on his face. Do you know whose fault it is that Xiao Yu fell to her current state? Ling Xiao gazed into the distance while he spoke with an extremely cold and indifferent tone. I know. It's my fault. No. It's the Xiao clan's fault, it's the fault of the laws of this world. Ling Xiao shook his head while devilish intent suddenly flowed within his eyes. In the eyes of the world, the strong are respected, yet they don't know that it's precisely because of this concept that the weak are like livestock at the mercy of others. I firmly believe that all living beings will be able to put down the obsessions in their hearts sooner or later, and they'll be benevolent and love the weak. What? Xiao Po's expression froze. Immortal radiance suddenly blossomed in his eyes. At this moment, the time in the entire region seemed to have come to a standstill. Boundless Taoist rhymes started to rise, transforming into rays of light that illuminated the heavens and the earth. If you want to change the rules, you have to break the current situation. Only when we are strong enough will we not become the stepping stones of others on their path to immortality. When we are strong enough to make the immortals and gods bow to us, we will be able to re-establish order and even rebuild the heavenly Tao. I know that this is very difficult. Perhaps it would be very difficult for me to do it alone. However, I have never given up. Ling Xiao looked deeply at Xiao Bo and patted his shoulder. I would rather turn into darkness and become a terminator, as long as the new world is filled with light. You think about it carefully. Re-establish order? Turning into darkness? Xiao Popper's expression was aghast as he stared blankly at the black-clothed figure that gradually walked away, and his heart suddenly trembled fiercely. That was right. If he was strong enough, his sister would not have ended up like this. However, his strength alone could only change the fate of those around him. In this world, there were still countless Xiao Yu who were experiencing torture. Xiao Bo had already witnessed Ling Xiao's cruelty and viciousness with his own eyes. However, he really did not expect that his lord actually had such a grand and righteous plan in his heart. Turning into darkness and crushing the immortals and gods, just to expose the hypocrisy of the 9 heavens and return a bright world to the common people. Break the rules. Suddenly, the dejection on Xiao Bo's face was swept away and replaced by a trace of eagerness that had never been seen before. You take this jade pendant with you. It can bless you with everything you wish for. Ling Xiao took out a soul-nurturing jade from his heaven-earth bag and gently handed it to Xiao Yu with a gentle smile on his face. In front of the ancient forest in the distance, Xiao Bo clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes were filled with reverence. Even if his lord's demonic body was exposed one day and he became the enemy of the entire world, these people who truly understood him would also be willing to accompany him to conquer the world. Xiao Clan. I am back. Let's go. Ling Xiao stretched out his hand and rubbed Xiao Yuer's hair before turning and walking toward the heavenly hall. If Xiao Bo was still unable to wake up from his dejection, this heavenly mandate would basically be crippled. Young master, Phoenix Rouge hugged Ling Xiao's arm tightly with both hands, and there was a faint trace of resentment on her beautiful face. Let's go to the heavenly lake to rest for a night. From tomorrow onwards, I will be cultivating in seclusion. Ling Xiao smiled and lifted Phoenix Rouge up by her waist before rushing toward the heavenly lake. Seeing this scene, Lin Meng shook her head and smiled bitterly. However, she did not disturb the two of them anymore and returned to the heavenly hall to cultivate in seclusion. Compared to Phoenix Rouge, Bai Ling, and even Su Yen, her talent was much weaker. If young master had not given her the fire back then, perhaps she would not even have the qualifications to look up to him now. So, what was there to complain about? Young master, boom! Above the heavenly lake, two figures fell from the sky and directly into the lake. Ling Xiao's heart moved, and the black clothes on his body immediately disappeared. Phoenix Rouge also took off her silk dress, leaving only 2 white strands on her legs, which wrapped around Ling Xiao's legs. In an instant, the heavenly lake of the spiritual mountain suddenly rose without any wind, and a fragrance spread in all directions. Rain poured down from the mountains, pouring down a sweet rain. Young master, do you know why I am willing to follow you? Ling Xiao hugged Phoenix Rouge on the shore of the lake and looked up at the stars above. At this moment, this heavenly mandate's face was obviously a little red, and her entire body seemed to be emitting a sparkling light. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly and shook his head slightly. Sometimes I see a kind of loneliness in you, a kind of loneliness that does not fit in with this world. Young master, do you believe that in this world, there are people whose souls come from a different time and space? Of course. The universe is vast and endless. There will always be some strange things that happen. Yes, that kind of loneliness that is not understood. But, it doesn't matter. As long as I can follow young master, it doesn't matter where I am. Phoenix Rouge giggled and suddenly jumped out of the water, pouncing towards Ling Xiao. Young master. Still, boom. The next day, just as the sky lit up, Ling Xiao was already sitting cross-legged on the shore of the heavenly lake. His body was surrounded by sword intent, like a divine sword, and sword chi pierced the sky. System, add a point to the 3,000 sword bones. Boom! In just a short breath, immortal light wrapped around Ling Xiao's arm. One could vaguely see a jade-like sword radiance blooming from his bones, and the demonic bones on Ling Xiao's body were engraved with countless Tao runes and divine seals. An indescribably terrifying biting cold quietly cut through the sky. Even the mountain wind was shattered into pieces when it reached this place. Time slowly passed, and in the blink of an eye, more than a month had passed. In the south of the Azure World, there was a lone peak that stood in the clouds. This peak was called the Heaven and Earth Tower, and it was the highest peak in the south of the Azure World. It was said that climbing this peak would allow one to see the heaven and earth. Of course, this Heaven and Earth Tower was not famous for its height, and the 4 walls that were difficult to climb. It was said that there was an immortal living at the top of this mountain. The title of immortal was too absurd, and it was mostly passed down by mortals. However, the most terrifying thing was that the peak of this mountain was always rippling with immortal light, and the divine light was thousands of miles away, but no sect or clan dared to step on this mountain. Chapter 11:18 Heaven and Earth Tower, Qing Tsang Peak. Immortals descended and hid in the clouds. At this moment, on the peak of the mountain, an old man in hemp clothes held a fishing rod and fished in the clouds. There was no spiritual aura on his body, but there was a kind of aura that merged with heaven and earth. He was like an ancient boulder, unmoving and not dangerous. His wrinkled face revealed the vicissitudes of life, but his eyes were as calm as water, as if he had been reborn. Behind the old man, a young man in hemp clothes walked over and bowed to the old man. "Master, I will be leaving the mountain today. Go quickly, don't disturb my cultivation." The old man seemed to be a little impatient and waved his hand perfunctorily. "Master, I don't know when I will return. Take care." The young man bowed and stepped out of the clouds to leave. "Humph. Little brat, I was invincible in the Qing-Tsang continent back then. If I didn't have a sudden epiphany and hide in this mountain, there might not be 10 lords in the demon region now. However, since you are going down the mountain to train, you can't mention my name. Keep this token well. Your 5 senior sisters are all famous people in the Qing-Tsang continent now. If you encounter any difficulties that you can't solve, you can look for them." With that, the old man waved his hand. A ray of light fell from the sky and landed in the young man's hand, turning into the shape of an ancient token. "You just need to send a message with your divine consciousness, and your 5 senior sisters will be able to sense it." "Thank you, Master." The young man was delighted. He reached out and grabbed the ancient token. His figure immediately fell from the sky. However, just as he appeared at the foot of the mountain, he suddenly saw a demonic aura in the distance. Immediately after, a tall figure clad in silver armor stepped through the air and descended from the sky. "You are Junior Brother?" The woman's purple hair fluttered in the wind. Her silver armor was tall and straight, and she looked valiant. Her jade neck was slender and white, delicate and flawless. It was crystal clear like white jade. On her picturesque face, there was a hint of domineering intent that was rarely seen on women. Purple lightning was faintly swimming around his body, causing people to feel fear. "I am Zhang Juji. May I know which senior sister you are?" The youth bowed and smiled brightly at the purple-haired woman. His master was a heavenly sovereign, and he was one of the top people in Qing-Tsang. It's just that his master's temperament was indifferent and he didn't enter the secular world. He lived in seclusion on this green mountain and sea of clouds all year round, detached from worldly affairs. A heavenly sovereign without a sect or family was even more frightening, because such a person had no ties. As for him, his name was Jiuji. He took his mother's surname and was taken in by his master 200 years ago. He had been cultivating in this heaven and earth tower. According to Honorable Master, his mortal body was an extremely rare divine body called the Good Fortune Saint body. Wherever such a saint physique went, disasters and chaos would be eliminated, and good fortune would follow. Even if he didn't deliberately cultivate, he could still comprehend it at any time. Now, Zhang Juji was only 200 years old and had already stepped into the Zun realm. He was in the same realm as the top monster in Qing-Tsang. Now that the world of chaos had arrived and evil devils had emerged, it was precisely the best time to temper his Tao heart. Of course, he had other intentions for leaving the mountain this time. "It's really Junior Brother. I'm your 5th senior sister, Lei Yun." "Junior Brother, is Honorable Master on the mountain?" The silver-armored woman smiled gently. She had heard about the origin of this Junior Brother. It was said that when Honorable Master was traveling the mountains and rivers, he once encountered a female corpse and a 5-year-old child in a desolate land. The female corpse had long been eaten by demonic beasts, but the child didn't suffer any harm. Honorable Master believed that this was the will of the heavens, so he took the child as his disciple and brought him to the mountain to cultivate. In a flash, more than 200 years had passed. "So it's 5th senior sister." Zhang Juji's expression froze and he bowed again. Although he had never met his 5th senior sister, he had once read a secret record written by his Honorable Master on the mountain. Most of it was what his Honorable Master had seen in these years of traveling, but there were also the identities and names of his 5th senior sister. This 5th senior sister was one of the 10 demon lords of the demon region, the daughter of the Thunder Lord. She was born with purple lightning, and her physical body was extremely terrifying. She was also a famous monster of the current generation of the demon clan. Fifth senior sister, Honorable Master is on the mountain. I will be in seclusion for 1,000 years. If you have nothing to do, you are not allowed to disturb me. Before Lei Yun could go up the mountain, a muffled sound that sounded like a yellow bell suddenly sounded in her ears. Honorable Master. Disciple, Buzz. On top of the heavenly mountain, a ray of multicolored light descended, imprisoning heaven and earth and covering the spiritual aura. A hint of helplessness appeared on Lei Yun's pretty face as she stomped her feet in exasperation. Her honorable master had always been indifferent and never meddled in other people's business. Today, she had come to solve the doubts in her heart, but it seemed that she had come in vain. Fifth senior sister. Why are you here? So annoying. I originally wanted to ask Honorable Master if my Thunder Dragon clan has the opportunity to fight for the heavens now that chaos has arrived. Honorable Master claims to have immortal knowledge and wisdom, but I think it's most likely just a bluff. Lei Jiyun snorted coldly, her pretty face filled with anger. She had a bad temper to begin with. Since young, she had been sent here by the Thunder Lord to train her Tao heart. But now it seemed that it was easy to change mountains and rivers, but it was difficult to change one's nature. The sky demon descends, the heavenly underworld appears, the western Buddha demon, the ghost fog rises, the snow immortal, the primal chaos emperor, the sword is called Zhu Xian, the zither is called Li Xie, the flesh is indestructible, the divine might can slaughter the sun, the blood prison true phoenix, seal the heavens with a thought, the body of the ancient desolate. These 13 people are the taboos of this generation. You cannot provoke them. Avoid them if you see them. Just as Lei Yun's voice fell, a low roar came from above again, directly entering their minds, shocking them inexplicably. Your life and death will be decided by yourself. 13 people? Can't provoke them? A hint of surprise appeared on Zhang Juji and Lei Jiyun's faces as they looked at each other. Not only was there no trace of fear in their eyes, but it was also filled with curiosity. Both of their talents were the best in the azure sky. As for the other 4 senior sisters, they were also famous. With the strength of the 6 of them, how could there be so many taboos among their peers? Of course, Honorable Master's methods were exceedingly high. He would definitely not speak nonsense. But now that the world was chaotic, there was only one word to fight. If there was too much fear in one's heart, it would only cause one's Tao heart to be covered in dust and obstructed one's immortal path. Hey, Master, this is what you taught us. Yes, we will remember. The 2 of them looked at each other and smiled, not daring to disobey in the slightest. They bowed towards the spiritual mountain. When the 2 of them were far away, the hemp-robed elder at the top of the mountain sighed softly. His originally calm eyes suddenly flickered with a hint of confusion. At this moment, he seemed to see a demonic sun rising from the east, illuminating the eternal sky. However, there was auspicious purple chi around the demonic sun that spread for 90,000 miles. The chaos evolved and covered the past and present. These 13 people were all in the destiny that he had deduced and had the opportunity to fight for the heavens. However, they were all shrouded by the demonic sun and their fates were unknown. Chaos had arrived. However, he could not predict whether the demonic sun would suppress the ancient times in the end or if someone would break the demonic light and step into the world. Moreover, what made this hidden expert even more puzzled was why there was no Lingji among the 13 people. Back then, the Ling people lived in seclusion and suppressed tens of thousands of races. Now that the great calamity had arrived, there should be no heavenly fate in this race. Forget it, whether it was a blessing or a curse, it was all fate. He could see the secrets of the heavens, but he could not see through fate. Moreover, the path of Tao was always changing. If he blindly interfered, he would only harm himself and others. Inexplicably, the elder's eyes flickered with a hint of dimness. With a wave of his hand, He sealed the ancient mountain and hid it in the sky. Chapter 11-19. Fifth Senior Sister, do you know the Silver Moon Heavenly Wolf Clan? Zhang Juji only asked in a deep voice when he and Lei Yun were 50 kilometers away from each other. Of course I know. This clan is as famous as my Thunder Dragon clan. They are one of the top 10 demon clans in the extreme south. Why, do you have some fate with this clan? Lei Jiyun raised her eyebrows and looked at her junior brother curiously. At this moment, she seemed to feel a trace of demonic aura circulating around his body. Could it be, I don't have any fate with them, but I do have some ill-fated fate? Zhang Juji snorted, and killing intent flashed in his eyes. Junior brother, don't worry. In the extreme south, my Thunder Dragon clan is quite powerful. If you have any grievances, just tell me. I will make the decision for you. Lei Yun was domineering, as if she did not care about the Silver Moon clan at all. With the Thunder Dragon clan's foundation, it was one of the top 10 demon clans. However, the Silver Moon clan had suffered a lot recently and had lost its former majesty. No one would refuse to beat a dog when it was down. In that case, thank you, Fifth Senior Sister. I plan to go to the Heavenly Wolf clan now. Zhang Juji's eyes were cold, and the killing intent around him was almost tangible. He had cultivated for 200 years, and there was still an obsession in his heart that hindered his Tao heart. Now that he had come out to experience the world, the first thing he had to do was to break this obsession. Only then could he have a clear Tao heart. The chaotic world had nothing to do with him. As for the 13 people that his master had mentioned, he was just curious. However, the Heavenly Wolf clan was where his killing intent lay. If this hatred was not resolved, his Tao heart would not be at ease. With his fifth senior sister accompanying him, he did not have to worry about being threatened. He wanted the entire Heavenly Wolf clan to know that he, Zhang Juji, was not a trash with a mixed bloodline, but a sacred destiny body that they could never reach. Okay. Junior brother, as far as I know, you have been cultivating with Master since you were young. How did you become enemies with the Heavenly Wolf clan? Lei Yun was puzzled. Seeing that Zhang Juji was unwilling to talk about it, she smiled bitterly and rushed to the extreme south with him. Fifth senior sister. What is Master's background? Along the way, Zhang Juji gradually became familiar with Lei Yun. This fifth senior sister had a fiery personality and was outspoken. She had a forthright personality. Actually, I don't know either. But it is said that Master's lifespan is very long. He already existed before Qing Tsang was suppressed by the World Lord Palace. Moreover, my royal father once said that Master knows the mandate of heaven, comprehends the principles of the world, and has the name of a sage. The disciples he teaches are now the true top figures of the Azure Sky world. Lei Yun shook her head as a wisp of heartfelt reverence appeared on her pretty face. Her father was one of the 10 great demon lords of the extreme south. His cultivation was unparalleled, and his bloodline was terrifying. But even so, at the mention of Master, Imperial Father still had a face full of fear and was unwilling to reveal too much. From this, it could be seen that this old man who only knew how to fish and drink tea might have really been able to move unhindered in the Azure Sky continent. So powerful? Even though it was Zhang Juji's first time in the world, he had long heard of the Thunderbolt Master's name. The body of the Thunder Dragon was surrounded by purple lightning. Even amongst the 10 great demon lords, his prestige was unparalleled. Moreover, this demon lord's temperament was extremely irritable and temperamental. Therefore, usually, no demon clan dared to provoke him. To be able to subdue him, that person must be a truly top-notch person in this world. Actually, junior brother, even if you have a conflict with the Celestial Wolf clan, as long as you mention Master's name, they won't dare to make things difficult for you. Lei Yun shook her head and smiled, but her eyes were gloomy. That woman had already returned for 2 months. She didn't know what she said to Imperial Father, but now, he actually accepted her, a mixed bloodline, into the ancestral land and opened the secret realm of the ancestral land for her alone. The sacred blood left behind by the Thunder Dragon ancestor filled her body. One had to know that even she didn't have the chance to enjoy such treatment. Back then, the ancestral blood filling her body was an opportunity that she, the direct descendant of the Thunderbolt Master, fought for step by step. But that woman was directly bestowed such a fortune, and not a single ancestor objected. Moreover, Imperial Father, who had always doted on her, actually warned the direct descendants not to be rude to her. Otherwise, they would be punished according to the clan rules. Ridiculous! Simply unreasonable! What right did a chinchilla have to stand in her Thunder Dragon ancestral land? Originally, Lei Yun came to the Heaven and Earth Imperial Court to find Master and deduce the woman's aura. She didn't expect that Master didn't even want to see her. Master's name? What's Master's name? Zhang Jiuji was stunned and suddenly revealed a wry smile. In the past 200 years, he had been cultivating with Master and had always called him Master, but he had never asked for Master's name. You don't even know Master's name? Lei Yun looked at junior brother with a surprised expression and then shook her head. Master's name is Qing Mu. The people of the Demon Clan call him Qing Mu Supreme. Qing Mu Supreme? Zhang Jiuji nodded slightly and firmly remembered this name in his heart. Let's go. Junior brother, the Silver Moon Clan is in the north of the Demon Realm. It's not far from here. We should arrive in a day. After saying that, Lei Yun no longer hesitated. She took a step forward and turned into a stream of light. Behind her, Zhang Jiuji smiled bitterly. Although there was some nervousness in his eyes, there was more awe-inspiring. Silver Moon Wolf, I, Zhang Jiuji, am back. A day passed in the blink of an eye. When Lei Yun's figure descended from the sky, in front of them was a vast and boundless green mountain. In the distant mountain, there were waves of demon howls that shook people's hearts. Zhang Jiuji's eyes were cold. He raised his head and looked at the familiar golden palace, stone mountain, and old forest. That's right. Back then, he and his mother were driven out of this place by the Silver Moon Wolf clan. His father was the Silver Moon Wolf Master, Song He. His mother was a human cultivator named Zhang Jinlian. When she was traveling here, Song He, who had not yet become the Wolf Master, took a fancy to her and took her as his concubine. Zhang Jiuji's name was Tsangyin. He was of mixed lineage, and had been ostracized since the day he was born. Only his father doted on him. However, when Song He ascended to the position of the Wolf Master, a group of direct lineage clansmen suddenly came to the courtyard where they lived and chased them out of the ancestral land. However, before the two of them could walk out of the demon region, they encountered evil people in the mountain and died an unnatural death. At that time, Zhang Jiuji was still young. He only remembered that the group of people had their faces covered by black veils and their movements were mysterious. In particular, the leader of the group had a scar that ran through his forehead. Originally, Zhang Jiuji should have died in the barren mountain with his mother. However, in the end, the group of people did not kill him and turned to leave. Perhaps they thought that a 5-year-old child abandoned alone in the depths of the barren mountain with a bleeding corpse beside him would be eaten by demon beasts very quickly. However, Zhang Jiuji survived. This name was given to him by his master. He followed his mother's surname and had the meaning of 9 extremes heaven. When his mother died, his father died. Halt! Just as Zhang Jiuji was feeling emotional and sorrowful, a cold shout came from the distant sky. Then 2 figures descended from the sky and blocked his and Lei Yun's path. Chapter 11:20. Are you blind? How dare you block my way? Lei Yun snorted, and the power of thunder rippled from her body. Faint purple lightning snaked around her body, and a terrifying aura of destruction gradually recovered. Thunder Dragon Clan, you Young Master Lei Yun of the Thunder Clan? The two Heavenly Wolf Guards' faces froze. They hurriedly put away their sabers and bowed. Now that the Heavenly Wolf Clan was at the end of its road, young Master Tsang Ning went to the human clan to search for treasures and somehow became a vassal of the Sky Demon. Although the Heavenly Wolf Clan Master sacrificed his life and showed his divine spirit for the 9 demon lords to investigate, how could this stain be so easily washed away? Even the demon clans that had submitted to the Heavenly Wolf Clan in the past had found an excuse to leave. Now, the Heavenly Wolf Clan had to be respectful to the Heavenly Wolf Clan, not to mention provoking the daughter of a demon lord. They were afraid of attracting an unexpected disaster. Get lost. Lei Yun naturally had to show her dominance in front of her junior brother. The two Heavenly Wolf Guards looked at each other and did not dare to stop her. They turned and rushed toward the temple. Junior brother, now that the Heavenly Wolf Clan is here, you should tell me who your enemy is, right? How did you become enemies with them? Lei Yun smiled domineeringly and patted Zhang Juji's shoulder. Don't worry. With me here, no one in the Heavenly Wolf Clan will dare to touch you. Thank you, senior sister. Zhang Juji nodded slightly, but there was no warmth in his eyes. Back then, he and his mother were chased out of this place like stray dogs and were hunted down in the barren mountains. In the past, Zhang Juji did not think much about it, but as he grew older, he gradually had a guess. With his and his mother's status, who would spend so much effort to hunt them down? It was obvious that the person who wanted to kill them was most likely from the Heavenly Wolf Clan. Could it be his father? He used to dote on him so much. It's a person with a long scar on his forehead. Zhang Juji looked up at the Golden Temple and said calmly, "He killed my mother." What? Your mother? Lei Yun frowned slightly, and her beautiful eyes also flickered with a trace of coldness. All right. Little junior brother, don't worry. Even if I have to turn the entire Celestial Wolf Clan upside down, I'll definitely help you find your enemy. However, in order to prevent that person from hiding, don't make a sound. Leave it to me. Alright. Zhang Juji took a deep breath. 200 years had passed, and the ancient trees of the clan were still intact. However, he was no longer a 5-year-old child who was at the mercy of others. Behind him was Qing Tsang and the other 4 monstrous geniuses with monstrous backgrounds, as well as a heavenly sovereign who dominated the entire demon region. Today, he would find out the truth of what happened back then and avenge his mother's death. In the future, he would rely on his own strength to crush the Celestial Wolf Clan and make them crawl at his feet. Although I, Zhang Juji, am a mixed martial artist, I will let you all know that I am a mixed martial artist. Let's go. Lei Yun smiled faintly. Suddenly, she reached out and grabbed Zhang Juji's hand. She led him towards the temple in the mountain. Based on Lei Yun's age, this little junior brother was just a young man in her eyes. Moreover, she was an extrovert and did not care about trifles. Hence, she did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. On the other hand, Zhang Juji's face flushed red when he felt the warmth from his palm. However, before he could struggle, he was already dragged by his 5th senior sister and walked forward. Buzz. Suddenly, a violent wind blew in all directions in the ancestral land of the Celestial Wolf Clan. Countless purple lightning bolts covered the sky as if it was the end of the world. Under the layers of thunderclouds, 2 figures walked over while holding hands. They stood in the clouds and exuded a vast and mighty celestial aura. They were like a pair of celestial immortals. It was shocking. At that moment, Zhang Juji was not worried that he would be recognized. After all, he was only 5 years old when he left the Celestial Wolf Clan. Now that 200 years had passed, who would remember him, a mixed martial artist of the Celestial Wolf Clan? Young Lord Lei Yun. When the two of them landed, they realized that the main hall of the Celestial Wolf Clan was filled with white curtains. The atmosphere was mournful. The Wolf King, Song Ning, had died in the Azure Mystery Realm a few months ago. Everyone in the demon region knew about this. On the other hand, the Wolf King, Song-He, was lucky enough to survive after the 9 of them read his divine soul. However, it was said that he had lost his mind and was no longer dignified. So, it's the first elder. Lei Yun looked up and coldly glanced at the Celestial Wolf clan elites standing in front of the hall. Song-He had lost his mind and Song-Ning had been killed. Currently, there was no one in the Celestial Wolf clan's direct line of descent. The first elder, Song-Yen, was also a member of the direct line of descent. He was temporarily in charge of the Celestial Wolf clan. May I know why young Lord Lei Yun is here? Song-Yan's tone was humble. A dignified 9th grade Saint Realm expert actually bowed his head to a young girl of the Venerable Realm. It was clear that the world was cold. Oh, it's nothing particularly important. However, when my junior brother went out to train, he was protected by a Celestial Wolf clan elite. Now I'm here to repay his kindness. After all, Lei Yun was the young lord of a clan. She was far more scheming than Zhang Juji. Everyone knew that her master was the Greenwood Prime that was revered by the Demon Clan. Now that the Celestial Wolf Clan was in trouble, if they could have a little connection with the Greenwood Prime, it would be a great fortune for the Demon Clan. What? Young Lord Lei Yun's junior brother? As expected, the expressions of the Celestial Wolf Clan elders changed when they heard Lei Yun's words. They looked at Zhang Juji with shock in their eyes. Although the Greenwood Prime had not appeared for a long time, he was the true prophet of the Azure Mystery Realm. The 10 lords of the demon region had always been united, but it did not mean that there were no dispute. Back then, the Realm Lord had appeared out of nowhere and used the immortal demon Ancient Bell to suppress the entire realm. No one could compete with the Exorcist, Barbarian, and Demon clans. Since the Demon clan wanted to return to the world, they had to put aside their grudges and unite against the outside world. However, a demon clan that colluded with the Sky Demon, no matter how strong their foundation was, would only end up as the common enemy of the Azure Mystery Realm. Even if Song-He had used his life to prove it, some things would not be easily changed once they were buried in the heart. For example, trust. For example, prejudice. That's right. This is my junior brother. Lei Yun nodded indifferently. Great Elder Song-Yen, since my junior brother wants to find someone, why don't you summon all the adult clansmen of the Celestial Wolf clan and let my junior brother take a look at them one by one? Of course, of course. Song-Yen was excited. The heavens had not forsaken the Celestial Wolf clan. The kindness of the Greenwood Prime's disciple was enough for the Celestial Wolf clan to regain their prestige and get out of their predicament. Quick! Go and summon all the clansmen. Those who are in seclusion and those who have just died, dig them out for me. Song-Yen turned his head and gave the elders a look. Yes, Great Elder. Everyone immediately bowed and rushed into the depths of the sacred mountain. After a long while, powerful auras descended from the sky and lined up neatly in front of the main hall. Haha, young friend, of the 3,000 clansmen of the Celestial Wolf clan, except for the few ancestors who have reached the supremacy level, the rest are all here. Song-He folded his hands in front of him and bowed slightly. His old face was smiling like a chrysanthemum. Not here. However, at this moment, Zhang Juji shook his head with a solemn expression between his brows. The Celestial Wolf clan is all here? Why is Song-He not here? Chapter 11:21. Song-He? The group of Heavenly Wolf elders were surprised, and their brows were filled with confusion. Was this young man deliberately humiliating the Heavenly Wolf clan, or was he unaware of the recent changes in the demon region? Ahem, my junior brother just came out of seclusion today and is not clear about the demon region. Great Elder Song-Yen, are all your clansmen here? Lei Yun smiled awkwardly and explained in a low voice. I see. That's right, apart from the Wolf Lord and the Wolf Queen, everyone else is here. What happened to Song-He? Suddenly, Zhang Juji felt an inexplicable sense of panic, especially when he saw the white curtain hanging above the divine hall. It made his face pale, and he felt indescribably anxious. Could it be that Songhe is dead? The Wolf Lord's soul is severely injured, and he has lost his consciousness. The Wolf Queen is responsible for taking care of his daily life. Song Yen sighed softly, but there was some confusion in his eyes. Why did this young man's face suddenly turn pale? His soul is severely injured? Take me to see him. Zhang Juji's eyes were cold, and even his voice was trembling. Not only Song Yen, but even Lei Yun had a look of surprise on her face. Little junior brother? You? Senior sister, please. Zhang Juji shook his head slightly. Lei Yun sighed and turned to Song Yen. Great elder, please? This, Song Yen looked troubled. The Wolf Lord was reduced to a retard. This scene was really damaging to the Wolf clan's dignity. But when he thought of Lei Yun and this young man's identity, Song Yen gritted his teeth and turned to the back of the mountain. The two of you, come with me. Let's go. Lei Yun took Zhang Juji's hand and followed Song Yen. Song Yen only stopped when the three of them reached an ancient temple in the mountain. He turned to look at Lei Yun and said, Young master, little friend, the Wolf Lord's soul is injured, so, don't worry, great elder. Lei Yun's expression was no longer as relaxed and domineering as before. If little junior brother's mother's murderer was really Lord Wolf, this matter would become very complicated. Even if the one who killed Zhang Juji's mother was an elder of the Celestial Wolf clan, she was confident that she could use her status to subdue the Celestial Wolf clan. However, if this person was truly the Wolf Lord, then he was not someone that she, the Lightning Dragon young master, could decide. However, Lord Wolf didn't seem to have a scar on his forehead. Why was little junior brother so agitated when he mentioned the two words Kang? Who? Zhang Juji took a deep breath and took the lead to walk toward the stone hall. Ha ha, Songhe, haven't you always looked down on me? But now who is it that is by your side, taking care of you, guarding you? At this moment, in the stone hall, a seductive middle-aged woman in golden clothes smiled faintly as she looked coldly at the figure lying on the bed. It was a middle-aged man with thick eyebrows and heavy eyes. However, his expression was dull and lifeless. That's right, I am unable to bear children. However, Jing grew up by my side and has the pure blood of the Red Flame Fox clan flowing in his body. He is extremely respectful to you and treats you as his father. Why can't he become the young master of the Celestial Wolf clan? Beside the beautiful woman was a young man in black clothes. His expression was dark and ruthless. His eyes were filled with resentment and anger. Compared to Song Ning, Jing has been smart since he was young. He is friendly and kind to his clansmen. He handles the clan's affairs in an orderly manner. But what about you? When have you ever looked him in the eye? Song Ning is one thing, but I didn't expect that a human bastard would be more honorable than him in your eyes. Songhe, I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Mother, seeing the woman's agitated expression, the young man in black immediately tugged at her robes. Don't call me mother. The woman roared and turned to glare fiercely at Song Jing. However, in the next moment, a seductive smile appeared on her face. Call me Mother Empress. Songhe, you probably didn't expect this even in your dreams. Oh no, I didn't expect this either. I really didn't expect that I, Chi-Ji, would have such a day. Song Ning's death caused the First Madam's mind to collapse. Now you've been soul-searched and turned into a retard. She died in her bedroom 3 days ago. Now I am the Wolf Queen of the Celestial Wolf clan. I am. Ha 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 ha. Chi-Ji laughed wildly. She was originally one of the Wolf Lord Songhe's concubines. Her bloodline was lowly and she was a woman from a small clan in the mountains. Originally, in Songhe's eyes, she was just a servant girl. However, the will of the heavens played tricks on people. Song Ning died, Songhe's mind was shattered, and the Wolf Queen's blood rushed to her heart. She rode a crane to the west. The huge celestial wolf clan fell into the hands of the mother and son. Should it be said that hard work paid off, or the heavens had eyes? Oh, that's right, Song-hee. Actually, there's one more thing that I haven't told you. Seeing that you've fallen to such a state, I pity you. Chi-ji walked in front of Song-hee with a sinister smile. Haven't you been looking for Zhang Jinlian? Actually, I was the one who sent people to chase the mother and son out of the Celestial Wolf clan. I also asked the experts of my clan to kill her in the Barren Mountains. However, I did not kill that little bastard Song-in. After all, he is of your bloodline. Thus, I left him alone in the mountains. Haha, Kang, do I love you very much? Woo! Woo woo! Hearing this, the originally expressionless Wolf Lord suddenly twitched all over. His eyes faintly flickered with resentment. Yo, you've already lost your mind. You're still thinking about that mother and son. If you had listened to me and made Jing the young master, you wouldn't have fallen to such a state. What a joke. Back then, you wanted to make that little bastard Song-in the young master. Does the first madam know about this? Does Song-ning know? Oh, when I go to the ancestral hall to burn incense and pay my respects, I'll definitely tell them that it was I, Chi-ji, who allowed them to enjoy these 200 years of glory. Woo woo woo! Song-hee struggled even more violently. Chi-ji's eyes flickered with resentment. Jing send your royal father to the Western Paradise. Yes, royal mother. Song-jing smiled sinisterly. As long as Song-hee died, the Celestial Wolf clan would completely fall into his hands. All these years, he seemed to be low-key and humble, but in reality, he had already secretly roped in many of the clan's elders. Moreover, even if they questioned his identity now, there was no one else to choose from. Royal Father, you can go in peace. Don't worry, I'll remember your teachings and not provoke that Ling people's young master. In my hands, the Celestial Wolf clan will regain its glory. With that, Song-jing suddenly picked up a pillow from the bed and covered Song-hee with it. Stop! But, at this moment, a stern shout suddenly came from outside the room. Immediately after, Song-jing and his mother were stunned to see a linen-clothed figure break through the door. That tenacious and delicate face was filled with palpitating resentment and anger. Who are you? How dare you trespass into my celestial wolf forbidden area? Chi-ji's expression froze. The killing intent in her eyes instantly intensified. She would not allow anyone to ruin her grand plan that she had been planning for hundreds of years. No matter who it was, whoever dared to block her path to the throne must die. I am Song-in. Chapter 11:22. W.H. What? Song-in? Chi-ji's feet trembled as her face turned pale. How is this possible? How can you still be alive? So it was you who did this. Zhang Jiuji's heart was filled with killing intent. However, compared to before, this killing intent was no longer mixed with a trace of resentment. Originally, he thought that it was his father Song-hee who expelled him and his mother from the Celestial Wolf clan. With this hatred, he had lived for 200 years. Even when he was born today, his Tao heart was still incomplete. But now, Zhang Jiuji suddenly felt relieved. He felt as if he had transcended. It wasn't his father. His father still loved him. Song-in? Song-jing raised his foot and blocked Chi-ji's side with a disdainful expression. So what if you're alive? The Celestial Wolf clan now belongs to us. Even if a bastard like you knows the truth, how many people will believe you? Then what about me? However, just as Song-jing's voice fell, they heard another cold shout from outside the hall. Then, Lei Yun's figure slowly walked in. Her silver armor was graceful and tall, with faint purple lightning swimming on it. You? Lei Yun! Song-jing was stunned and suddenly exclaimed, You! Why are you here? Song Jing, I didn't expect you to have such a face. Lei Yun coldly snorted and looked at Qi Ji. What a vicious woman. Young Master Lei Yun. This is a private matter of the Celestial Wolf clan. I hope you won't interfere. I'm willing to pay any price for this. Qi Ji's face was pale. She finally gritted her teeth and said coldly, in this world, there was nothing that could not be betrayed. If there was, it could only be said that the benefits were not enough. Any price? I'm afraid you don't know who you've offended? Lei Yun shook her head and chuckled. Her face suddenly darkened. Not to mention a fake young master of the Celestial Wolf clan, even if it was Song Ning who killed his mother today, even if it was Lord Wolf, they would still die. Let me tell you, Zhang Jiuji is my junior brother, Supreme Greenwood's sixth disciple. What? At this moment, the calmness on Song Jing's face instantly disappeared and was replaced by fear. Supreme Greenwood, how could it be? Why would this Yao prophet accept a piece of trash like Song Yin as his disciple? So, your time of death has come. Lei Yun snorted coldly and took a step forward. But at this moment, a palm suddenly pressed down on her shoulder. Lei Yun's expression froze. She turned her head to look at her junior brother in surprise, only to see him shake his head. His eyes suddenly flashed with a bone-deep killing intent. I'll do it myself. Little junior brother, although Song Jing was not a genius of the monster clan, he was more than 200 years older than Zhang Jiuji. His current cultivation was at the 4th level of the monarch realm. On the other hand, Qi Ji was comparatively weaker, and she was only at the 2nd rank of the Exalt realm. To Lei Yun, these two people could naturally be killed with a wave of her hand. However, it was rather pressuring for little junior brother who had just stepped into the venerable realm, right? Little junior brother. Grand Elder Song Yen, can I kill these two? Zhang Jiuji raised his head to look at the void, his tone inexplicably cold. Song Jing and Qi Ji's expressions changed again. When they looked up, they saw that Song Yen had already appeared in front of the hall. Yes. Boom! Vast spiritual power surged into the sky with a loud bang. Vaguely, the sun and moon seemed to appear above Zhang Jiuji's head. Yin and Yang Qi flowed, revealing endless immortal charm. This is Master's heavenly origin immortal technique. Master actually imparted this cultivation method to you? Lei Yun's pretty face was stunned. Then, she glared at Zhang Jiuji with some hatred and envy in her eyes. This immortal technique was the technique that made Master famous, and he had never passed it to any disciple. In Master's words, the sun and the moon were two extremes, vast and endless. This divine power was not something an ordinary person could bear, and it needed to be integrated with a saint body. Even if Lei Yun's physical body was strong, she had never been recognized by Master. She did not expect little junior brother to have such an opportunity to gain Master's favor and cultivate the most mysterious technique in the Azure world. In that case, she had been worrying too much. How could a nameless 4th level of the Exalt realm be a match for little junior brother? Song Yin, you want to kill me? Dream on. Seeing that the matter had been exposed, extreme resentment appeared on Song Jing's face. He was just one step away, the last step, and he would be able to stand at the peak of the demon region's power. But fate made fools of people. Who would have thought that at the critical moment, his little brother, who should have died in the barren mountains, would suddenly appear and become the successor of Qing Mu Supreme. Did you see that? This was the most typical example of a villain dying from talking too much. If not for Qi Ji's nagging, Song He would have been suffocated to death. Then, how could there be such an unforeseen event? Of course, if all villains were like our young master, standing at the top of the world and strategizing, how could the chosen one have the chance to show off? Coincidence was the symbol of luck. Boom! Layers of demonic light bloomed around Song Jing's body. The red demonic fire turned into a demonic shadow that looked down on the world. Before Zhang Jiuji could prepare himself, He had already taken a step forward and appeared in front of the former. In the next moment, he struck out with his palm, shattering the void and pressing down on Song Yin's head. Heavenly origin, immortal technique, sun and moon shine together. Zhang Jiuji's expression didn't change. He gently clenched his hands, and the golden sun and silver moon above his head suddenly bloomed with dazzling light. Even his body was shrouded in celestial light. Song Jing's figure stopped a few feet in front of him. His face was filled with shock and despair. At this moment, he seemed to feel an invisible immortal force binding his body. Even with his strength of the fourth rank of the exalted realm, he couldn't break free. Mother, today, I will avenge you so that your soul can rest in peace. Zhang Jiuji looked up at the sky and slowly closed his eyes. There seemed to be tears at the corners of his eyes. Then, he suddenly opened his eyes and reached out with both hands. One hand was the sun, the other the moon, and he imprisoned Song Jing's body in his hands. In the next moment, under everyone's shocked gazes, he pulled hard. Rip! Song Jing's demonic body was torn apart by Zhang Jiuji like paper. Blood mixed with internal organs flowed all over the ground. Song Jing was torn in half. Plop! Zhang Jiuji casually tossed the corpse to the side. When he looked up again, his eyes were blood-red. Gulp! Qi Ji's delicate body trembled and she collapsed to the ground. Her lips trembled, but she couldn't utter a single word to beg for mercy. Pft! Zhang Jiuji lifted his foot and viciously stomped on her head, instantly crushing the wolf queen into a pile of mud. The entire hall was silent. Even Song Yen, a ninth-grade Saint Realm powerhouse, had a look of shock on his face. Song Jing was decisive and unparalleled. Who would have thought that the disgrace of the Celestial Wolf clan's third young master would grow to such a level? More importantly, he was Supreme Greenwood's personal disciple. Chapter 11:23. Plop! Zhang Jiuji suddenly knelt on the ground and roared, "Mother, I have avenged you!" Immediately, a boundless spiritual aura began to fluctuate around his body, and an extremely mysterious immortal aura descended from the sky with a loud rumble. Zhang Jiuji's cultivation level had suddenly entered the third grade. With a clear Tao heart, fortune would come naturally. Tianming had a creation physique to begin with. Wherever he went, creation would appear. Now that the suppressed resentment in his heart had dissipated, the breakthrough naturally came naturally. He broke through just like that? Previously, Grand Elder Song Yen was in awe of Zhang Jiuji's identity. But now, he was truly shocked by the youth's talent. Now, it seemed that the Celestial Wolf clan was not at their wits' end. Although Zhang Jiuji was not a pure-blooded Celestial Wolf, he was still of the Kang bloodline. Moreover, no matter how impure his bloodline was, it was still 100 times stronger than Song Jing's. And with the Thunder Dragon clan and Qing Mu's support, how many people in the monster domain would dare to provoke him? Suddenly, Song Yen made a decision in his heart. He looked at Zhang Jiuji with a gentle and joyful gaze. As expected of junior brother, such talent is enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with the top monstrous people in the Azure continent. Lei Yun's beautiful eyes trembled slightly. She had long guessed that since this junior brother had been able to follow her master for 200 years, he must be highly valued by her master. One had to know that with her master's lazy temperament, the 5 of them had only followed him to cultivate for 60 years at most before being chased out of the Heaven and Earth Imperial Palace. But she still did not expect that her junior brother's talent would be so monstrous. With just a thought, he had broken through a realm. How many people in the Azure continent could compare to such a godly talent? The Sky Demon descending? Heavenly Nether looming? Ghost Mist, Buddha Demon, Snow Immortal Emperor, what were they compared to her junior brother? Phew! Finally, Zhang Jiuji slowly got up and walked to the front of the bed, looking at the dazed Kang. At this moment, his expression was extremely complicated. The original hatred in his heart had already dissipated. 200 years. He had hated his father for 200 years. Only today did he realize that he was also a victim. According to Chi-ji, his father seemed to have been searching for him and his mother's whereabouts all these years, and even had the intention of making him the young master from the very beginning. Father, Zhang Jiuji's lips trembled slightly, but he still managed to utter those two words in the end. At this moment, there was clear sadness in his eyes as tears flowed down his cheeks. Why? Why did his father become like this when he finally knew the truth? God, you're so unfair to me! Young Master Tsangyin, since you've returned, you should take over the position of young master. Grand Elder Tsangyin sighed softly. There was only 1 day left until the young master's ceremony of the Sirius clan. However, Song Jing and his mother had wild ambitions. Their crimes were exposed and they were executed by the third young master in the hall. However, it was impossible for such a large clan like the Celestial Wolf clan to not have a wolf lord. Even though Tsongyin's cultivation was still low, his performance today had left Song Yin in awe. His talent was unparalleled, and his personality was resolute. Such a young man was worth looking forward to. Moreover, putting all these aside, the fact that he was Supreme Greenwood's personal disciple was a deterrent to the demon realm. Grand Elder, who hurt my father? Zhang Jiuji took a deep breath. He was still not used to being called Tsangyin. Even though he had taken his revenge, being called Zhang Jiuji was a kind of reminder to him. It told him to never forget that in this world, without strength, one could only be trampled on by others. This, Song Yen glanced at Lei Yun, who immediately smiled freely. I just said that junior brother has just been born. He really doesn't know about the matters of the demon realm. All right, young master. Lord Wolf lost his mind because he willingly allowed the 9 demon lords to search his soul. What? Willingly allowed his soul to be searched? Why? Zhang Jiuji clenched his fists, and his entire body was brimming with killing intent. Having misunderstood his father for 200 years, he felt a little guilty in his heart. Young Master Tsang Ning was ordered by Lord Wolf to go to a supreme secret realm in the northwest of the Qing Tsang continent to find the inheritance treasure of our clan, the Moonlight Divine Crystal. Unexpectedly, he was killed by young Master Ling Shao of the Ling people. Moreover, he framed young Master Tsang Ning for colluding with the Sky Demon. To prove his innocence, Lord Wolf, Song Yan's tone was low, and his expression was rather helpless. Even though young Master Tsang Ning was domineering, he was not someone who ignored the big picture. Colluding with the Sky Demon almost killed the entire Celestial Wolf clan. How could he dare to be so reckless? Colluding with the Sky Demon? Young Master of the Ling people? Zhang Jiuji frowned slightly and his eyes were gloomy. Junior brother, you may not know, but this young master of the Ling people is now the most outstanding talent of the human race. He has the title of Young Great Emperor and is the current human emperor. He is determined to slay demons and has already fought with the Sky Demon several times. Moreover, he is peerless. Lei Yun's pretty face was fascinated, and her tone was inexplicably gentle. Even though she rarely went out of the extreme South Demon region, she had heard all kinds of rumors about this young master. He was an elegant young master, righteous and immortal, and had unparalleled divine looks. It was said that some female demons who had seen him had already fallen into a dream and could not extricate themselves. Lei Yun naturally did not believe all these rumors, but she was a little curious. Yes, just curious. I don't believe it. What kind of divine looks can make people lose their appetite? Oh? So this young master of the Ling people should be on the righteous side of the human race? Therefore, he should not be framing others. Zhang Jiuji nodded silently. He had just been born and did not know much about the Qing Tsang continent. However, To be able to make Lei Yun give such a high evaluation, this young master of the Ling people should be not bad. Therefore, the problem should be Tsang Ning. Third young master, there is something you don't know. Song Yen sighed, and his expression was grave. It is said that Ling Zhao's fiancé once had a conflict with young master Tsang Ning. For his fiancé, this young master of the Ling people killed many demons of the Qing Song continent. What great elder means? I suspect that Ling Xiao only used an excuse to kill young master Tsang Ning. After all, the human race has always been sinister and cunning. As for colluding with the sky demon, it is purely to make people believe. Hearing this, Zhang Juji's expression immediately became gloomy. He did not care whether Tsang Ning was dead or not. After all, when he was young, this dog must have scolded him the most. However, he had the heavenly wolf's forbidden meridian and was a direct descendant. Zhang Juji did not dare to provoke him. But what crime did his father commit? Because of a sentence from the young master of the Ling people, he had fallen to such a state? Colluding with the sky demon, this kind of murderous means was really despicable. Little junior brother Yu at the side, Lei Yun looked at the ashen-faced Zhang Juji, and her beautiful eyes quietly narrowed. Little junior brother, you have been cultivating with master for many years. Now that you have just been born, perhaps you do not know the background of the Ling people. Listen to senior sister's advice. Don't send him off. Chapter 11:24. Don't send me off? Zhang Juji was taken aback. He didn't quite understand what Lei Yun meant. With the Thunder Dragon clan, Heavenly Wolf clan, Master Qingmu, and the other 4 senior sisters, who in the entire Azure continent would dare to compete with him? Ling Xiao? Looks like you're really something. Third young master. Miss Lei Yun is right. Ling people are people we can't afford to offend. Song Yen sighed. His face was full of resentment. Now, it seemed that the Heavenly Wolf clan's most precious inheritance, the Moon Crystal, had most likely fallen into Ling Zhao's hands. His words had indirectly affected the fate of the entire Heavenly Wolf clan. Even now, the Heavenly Wolf clan's patriarch was still around. However, the Heavenly Wolf clan's master and young master had been crippled. Their subordinate demon clans had all left. Soon, this clan would completely decline. Can't afford to offend them? Zhang Juji nodded slightly. Lei Yun and Song Yan's serious expressions made him understand how terrifying the young master of the Ling people was. But he couldn't just sit by and watch his father die. Moreover, this young master of the Ling people had the title of Emperor of the Human Sovereign. He shouldn't be a sinister and cunning person. Could it be that there was a misunderstanding? Third young master, our clan will hold the young master ceremony tomorrow. I don't plan to stay in the Heavenly Wolf clan until I figure out what happened to my father. Let's talk about it when I come back. Zhang Juji shook his head. His eyes were filled with determination. Come back? Junior brother, don't tell me you're really planning to seek revenge on Ling Xiao? Lei Yun was stunned. She grabbed Zhang Juji's hand. Don't go. You can't imagine how terrifying the Ling people are. If you offend the young master of the Ling people, even master can't protect you. Fifth senior sister, what are you thinking? Why would I offend him? I'm just curious about what happened that day. Song Ning really colluded with the sky demon, he deserved to die. But if he didn't, I think the young master of the Ling people will clarify things. Zhang Juji looked down at Song He on the bed. This can be considered helping the Heavenly Wolf clan through this crisis. But Lei Yun still wanted to persuade him, but Zhang Juji suddenly shook his head and turned to look at the sky outside the hall. Fifth senior sister, among the 13 people that Master mentioned before we went down the mountain, there shouldn't be any Ling people among them, right? This, Lei Yun's pretty eyes hardened slightly before she gently nodded. Although she had never seen Ling Xiao in person, the rumors about him in the world were extremely detailed. Of the 13 people mentioned by his master, only 3 might be related to him. The name of the sword was Immortal Slaying, a body of the ancients that could seal the heavens with a single thought. However, everyone knew that although Lord Ling Xiao had an invincible sword stance, the sword in his hand was a sacred weapon of the Foliaceae family, the great Saint Futian, which was ranked first among the 10 great azure divine swords. On the other hand, he'd only been born into the world for a few months, and the reason he was renowned in the world was precisely because he was still young and possessed peerless natural talent. So, how could he possibly be related to the primordial era? As for sealing the heavens with a single thought, in Lei Yun's opinion, it was most likely a person with extremely high attainments in the soul. Otherwise, how could he have sealed the heavens? Therefore, in her master's eyes, this young master of the Ling people was not a taboo in the world. It was not that Ling Zhao's cultivation level was not high, but perhaps it was because he was too righteous and gentle. Such a person's heart would always be bound, and it would be difficult for him to become a taboo. So, what's there to worry about? Now that the world is in chaos, I left the mountain to sharpen my Tao heart. Even if I really offend this young master of the Ling people, I'm afraid that no one will know about my relationship with the Heavenly Wolf clan. Zhang Jiuji laughed bitterly, and there was a calmness on his face that did not match his age. Fifth senior sister, thank you for bringing me to the Heavenly Wolf clan this time. Otherwise, the obsession in my heart would not have been cut off so easily. Let me walk the rest of the path on my own. How can that be? You just came into the world, so you don't know much about the Azure world. Forget it. Since you're going to look for young Master Ling Xiao, I'll accompany you. Lei Yun frowned slightly and finally sighed softly. That's right. She did not dare to offend the Ling people, but this Master Ling Xiao was not a bloodthirsty and cruel person. On the contrary, the world praised him and said that his temperament was like jade. Unless he offended Gu Chao Ci, he had always been gentle. As such, there was indeed nothing to worry about. Moreover, that woman was flaunting her power in the clan now, and Lei Yun had long wanted to go out. She heard that the person from the Daotian Academy was about to appear and preach the Tao. Although this academy was only open to human cultivators, it was still good to go to the Daotian city to watch the fun. Thinking of this, the last trace of hesitation in Lei Yun's eyes disappeared. Look, this is the advantage of setting up a trap. The young master is gentle and righteous, so what bad intentions can he have? On the contrary, if a villain openly exterminated an entire clan and killed everywhere, if you were the son of heaven, would you dare to easily appear and take revenge? If you dared, it proved that you were brainless. Fifth senior sister Zhang Jiuji's eyes trembled, and he was inexplicably touched. Indeed, the friendship between fellow disciples was deep. However, he did not know where the other 4 senior sisters were now. All right, stop being so wishy-washy. There is only a month left until the day of the Daotian Academy's Master's Lecture. Legend has it that this time, your second senior sister will appear in the Daotian city to host this once-in-a-century banquet. Let's go, I haven't seen her in a long time. Lei Yun smiled freely and took the lead to walk out of the hall. Second senior sister? Zhang Jiuji was startled, and a smile blossomed on his face. Back then, when Master was traveling the world, he took in 5 senior sisters. They were similar in age and had their own background. This second senior sister was the descendant of the Hua clan of the Sky Saint Merchant Alliance. Her name was Hua Mingxi. Rumor has it that this second senior sister was beautiful and virtuous. She was well versed in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. She was known as the Flower Fairy. Your second senior sister is the most gentle and virtuous of the 5 of us. Not only is she good at accounting, but she is also very popular. Most importantly, the Hua clan's wealth is unparalleled in the Qing Song continent. When the time comes, don't forget to ask her for a gift. Lei Yun didn't even turn her head. Counting the time, the 5 of them had been in the world for more than 200 years. Now that they had a rare opportunity to travel the Qing-Tsang continent, it was a good time to gather. Is that so? Zhang Juji smiled faintly and turned to look at Song He, who was on the bed. Father, don't worry. This time, I will go to the Qing-Tsang continent and avenge the disgrace of the Sirius clan. When my name is known in this world, I will come back to inherit the position of young master. After saying that, Zhang Juji bowed deeply to Song He. Without any hesitation, he turned and left. Woo-woo. On the bed, Song He suddenly let out a sob. Unknowingly, tears had flowed down his cheeks. Seeing this scene, Grand Elder Song Yen sighed softly. He put away the 2 corpses on the ground and said in a deep voice, Lord Wolf, it seems that our Sirius clan is not at the end of the line. With third young master's talent and temperament, our Sirius clan will definitely stand at the peak of the demon region in less than 100 years. You can rest assured. At this moment, Lei Yun and Zhang Juji walked out of the Sirius clan's territory with excitement flickering on their faces. This time, the 6 of them would definitely shine in the Qing-Tsang continent. Buzz! It wasn't until the 2 of them had walked far away that a beautiful figure in black walked out of the ancient forest. She frowned and looked in the direction of the Sirius clan. Then, she took out a voice transmission talisman. Emperor, something happened in the Sirius clan today. What is it? A cold female voice immediately came from the other end of the voice transmission talisman. Young Master Lei Yun of the Thunder Dragon clan and a young man from the Human clan arrived today and hurried to the Qing-Tsang continent. Send someone to follow them. Don't alert them. Find out their identities and their purpose in coming to the Qing-Tsang continent. Chapter 11:25 Immortal Phoenix Ancient Dynasty, Imperial Palace Hall. Gu Chaoxiai was wearing a phoenix robe as she sat on a golden chair. Her hair was not tied up. Although she did not have the majesty of an emperor, she looked more casual and natural. She was stunning and unparalleled. She exhaled a mouthful of turbid air as divine light surged around her. Above her head, a white moon divine pearl shone with a mysterious light, as bright as the moon. At this moment, her aura was faintly mixed with holy will. What was even more frightening was that in her eyes, there seemed to be 2 divine shadows of a dragon and a phoenix alternating, exuding a domineering aura. Originally, Gu Chaoxiai was cultivating the Gu clan's inheritance, the immortal phoenix ancient scripture. A few days ago, Ling Xiao gave her another supreme scripture called the Emperor Dragon Scripture. What Gu Chaoxiai did not expect was that while she was cultivating this scripture, it faintly complemented the immortal phoenix ancient scripture and formed its own power. Gu Chaoxiai gave this new cultivation technique a name, the Emperor Dragon Phoenix Scripture. The fusion of 2 supreme scriptures, this new cultivation technique, faintly touched the category of a legendary scripture. One had to know that even some immortal forces and supreme sects did not have a scripture inheritance. Unknowingly, Ling Xiao seemed to have given her a very precious gift. The coldness on Gu Chaoxiai's pretty face dissipated, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Since returning from the Supreme Secret Realm, she had sent her trusted guards to keep an eye on the Celestial Wolf clan. With the clan's foundation, they might not dare to provoke Ling Xiao. However, the demon region was different from the Azure region. The 10 demon lords of this region had always advanced and retreated together, and they hated the human race. She was worried that someone would harm Ling Xiao. In the end, the reality was the opposite of what she thought. Not only did none of the 10 demon lords take the opportunity to cause trouble, they even joined hands and searched the Silver Moon Wolf Master's soul, turning him into a retard. But, in this way, Ling Xiao had completely offended the Celestial Wolf clan. Even a rabbit would bite when cornered, let alone a wolf. All these years, Gu Chaoxiai had secretly nurtured a group of female immortal phoenix guards who were in charge of gathering intelligence. From the looks of it, it was time for them to show their worth. The last time Ling Xiao came, he intentionally or unintentionally mentioned the Realm Master's whereabouts, and Gu Chaoxiai sent out almost all of the immortal phoenix guards to search for his whereabouts. However, there was no news at all. It was indeed not that easy to find the whereabouts of a supreme expert who had once stood at the peak of the world. However, in the process of searching for the Sector Lord, Gu Chaoxiai managed to find out some secrets regarding this Sector Lord. It was rumored that he wasn't alone when he suppressed the Azure Continent. Beside him was a great demon. This demon's cultivation was not considered top-notch, but he was very scheming and understood the universe. It was precisely because of his companionship that the Realm Master was like a fish in water, and with his own strength, he swept through the myriad of races and established eternal might of the heavens. However, it was said that this great demon left the Realm Master's side on the day the Realm Master's palace was established 100,000 years ago. As for the reason, Gu Chaoxiai did not know, but it seemed like they parted on bad terms. Soon, when the divine talisman in Gu Chaoxiai's hand lit up again, a trace of coldness rose in her eyes. "Speak! Your Majesty, I've found out." The second young master of the Celestial Wolf clan rebelled with his mother and was killed by the third young master, Sangyin, who suddenly rushed back. It is said that this third young master was born with mixed meridians and left home when he was young. He is very talented and has a supreme master who is a supreme expert of the demon clan. His exact identity is unknown. This time, he went to the Azure Continent with the Thunder Clan's young master, Lei Yun, to find Lord Ling Xiao. Find Ling Xiao. Suddenly, countless strange phenomena appeared around Gu Chaoxiai. Dragons and phoenixes were auspicious and domineering. She did not know why, but when she heard the two words, Ling Xiao, her heart was filled with distracting thoughts and she could not calm down. "I know where they are." Gu Chaoxiai forced herself to calm down. Her immortal face was already filled with killing intent. The two of them did not hide their whereabouts. They have already arrived at the heavy mountain region south of the Azure Continent. Continue to follow them. Gu Chaoxiai put away the voice transmission talisman. There seemed to be Dao runes in her eyes. She knew this young master of the Thunder Dragon clan. She was the daughter of the Thunder Lord of the 10 Lords of the Demon region. She had a fiery temperament and her figure was also hot. She was in the Supremacy Realm and was born with divine lightning. Evil spirits could not invade her. As for the third young master of the Celestial Wolf clan, he was most likely in the Supremacy Realm. The two of them had traveled thousands of miles to find Ling Xiao. It was definitely not to have a heart-to-heart talk and make friends. It was most likely because of hatred. Of course, not to mention two Supremacy Realm experts, even a Sage Realm expert would not be able to hurt Ling Xiao. However, she just wanted to kill him. It was said that Lei Yun was beautiful and passionate. Such a woman sent herself to him. I'm not jealous. I'm just worried that she will obstruct Ling Xiao's path and delay my son's birth. Chen Yu. Gu Chaoxiai shouted softly. The space in the dark corner of the hall suddenly fluctuated for a moment. Then, a graceful figure in black appeared and bowed to Gu Chaoxiai. She was obviously much older than Gu Chaoxiai. Although she was beautiful, she seemed a little vulgar in front of Gu Chaoxiai. Celestial Emperor. Is there any movement on the Ling people's side? Celestial Emperor, ever since young master returned to the Ling people, he has not appeared. Chen Yu shook her head slightly. Her lips trembled slightly. She wanted to say something but stopped. Gu Chaoxiai frowned slightly and said coldly, "What is it?" Celestial Emperor, the Bodhisattva of the West Pole and the eldest princess of the Golden Crow Divine Dynasty, Jean Honor are also in the Ling people. They have not left yet. There is also that Xianyuan princess from before. I got it. Gu Chaoxiai said indifferently. Although there was no change in her expression, the temperature in the hall suddenly dropped by several degrees. Gu Chaoxiai already knew what had happened in the 4 great divine dynasties. Although everything seemed to be logical, the remnants of the sky demon rebelled and stole 2 evil treasures. Now, the seal of the Golden Crow divine dynasty had not been broken, and the ancient Qilin divine dynasty had taken the initiative to offer one. However, in Gu Chaoxiai's opinion, the evil treasure that the Realm Lord was afraid of had most likely fallen into Ling Zhao's hands. The Sky Demon's subordinate? I will quietly watch you fool the world. I will not speak. However, if you anger me one day, I will consign you to eternal damnation. Gu Chaoxiai felt inexplicably proud. The feeling of standing at a high place and looking down on Ling Zhao gave her an indescribable sense of accomplishment. He had always been the one who stood at the top of the world and controlled everything. Even the young lord of the Realm Lord Palace, Xuexian, was now being played by him alone. I am the only one who knows your biggest secret. I will not tell you. As for the Bodhisattva of the West Pole, Jin Han and Xianyuan Weiyang, it was time to give them a warning. What good will come of following Ling Zhao? Don't give up your immortal opportunities or even your lives because of this. Chunyu, Luoyan, come with me to the heavy mountain region. Gu Chaoxiai's face suddenly bloomed with a bright smile. She stepped out and her face was covered by a divine glow. Even her body seemed to be enveloped by a clear light that enveloped her body. She disappeared from the hall. Behind her, 2 graceful figures followed closely. There was actually a wave of Saint Stage energy surrounding them. Chapter 11:26. As the name suggested, the heavy mountain region was filled with mountains that were verdant and miasma. Thousands of mountains were connected and looked down like sharp swords that pierced the clouds. However, such a terrain was destined to be treacherous and filled with demons and demons. Vaguely, in the depths of the abyss and the peaks of the mountains, there was a demonic aura that covered the clouds and the sun. At this moment, in the depths of the heavy mountain region, 2 figures were walking side by side and heading north quickly. They were Lei Yun and Zhang Juji. With their cultivation, it would take at least 10 days to reach the center of the Azure Sky region. However, they did not know if the young master of the Ling people would appear to meet them if they rashly came. Junior brother, shall we go down and rest? Lei Yun's pretty face was calm as she looked down at the mountain peak under her feet. This place where demons and demons ran rampant was terrifying to the human race, but to her, the young master of the Thunder Dragon clan, it was not intimidating at all. Moreover, Lei Yun was born with divine lightning and could destroy all evil. Any demon with a little brain would not take the initiative to provoke her. Okay. Zhang Juji smiled faintly and took the lead to descend the mountain peak. Now that his mental demon had been destroyed, he looked refreshed and vigorous. In fact, compared to 2 days ago, Lei Yun realized that this junior brother of hers was smiling a lot more. His mother's blood feud and hatred for his father had imprisoned his mental state for 200 years. Now that everything was out, Zhang Juji only felt lofty and heroic. No matter how difficult it was not worth mentioning to him. The 13 taboos, the Sky Demon, Tianming, were not important at this moment. With a clear Tao heart, his immortal path would definitely skyrocket and soar in the 9 heavens. At this moment, he could not wait to show off and let the Azure Sky region know his name, Zhang Juji. Just the name of the young master of the Ling people was enough to make the Heavenly Wolf clan and the Thunder Dragon clan fear. Such power was really fascinating. Which young man did not have a hot-blooded heart and wanted to be famous in the world? Their hearts were free of fetters and shackles. The world is vast, and I, Zhang Juji, should enter the sequence and be respected by the world. Boom! However, just as the 2 of them landed on the mountain peak, golden light suddenly flowed in the surrounding void. It was as if a cage had fallen from the sky, trapping the two of them. Lei Yun's beautiful eyes narrowed, but there was no trace of panic on her face. She was the young master of the Thunder Dragon clan and had many tricks up her sleeves. Even a saint would not be able to harm her. As for supreme martial artists, how many of them would be willing to put down their pride and attack two juniors? Who dares to act rashly? Lei Yun shouted softly. Demonic chi swam around her body, and a dragon's might shot up into the sky. It transformed into clouds of calamity, intimidating everyone. A wisp of surprise appeared on Zhang Juji's face as well. He hadn't expected that they would actually be stopped as soon as they left the demon territory. However, regardless of whether it was Lei Yun or him, they both had no mortal enemies. Who could it be? Wind and clouds suddenly rose in the sky, and immortal halos fluctuated. A strand of clear radiance suddenly appeared in the sky, and it suffused the mountains and rivers for thousands of kilometers around. Then, the two of them saw a slender and otherworldly figure slowly walking over. Her entire body seemed to be covered by immortal light, and her appearance couldn't be seen clearly at all. However, that pair of perfectly straight jade-like legs were shockingly proportioned as they swayed gracefully. Her jade feet were like snow, untainted by even a speck of dust. Even though her appearance wasn't revealed, she gave off a sacred, noble, and insufferably stunning aura. Who are you? Lei Yun's eyes flashed with a wisp of seriousness. She didn't know why, but just a figure made her, who had always been arrogant, feel ashamed of her inferiority. Needless to say, Zhang Juji's eyes were wide open at this moment. Tao patterns filled his eyes, and he seemed to want to see the beautiful face of this goddess. Die! Gu Chaoci shouted coldly. She didn't hesitate at all. She stretched out her hand, and a clear radiance divine seal appeared out of thin air to suppress the two of them. The divine seal was 100 feet long, and there seemed to be true dragons and phoenixes flying on it. It revealed a great aura that could suppress heaven and earth. A terrifying aura started to recover. It was vast and surging, and it swept through heaven and earth. It smashed down with a piercingly cold, killing intent. Junior brother, be careful! Lei Yun shouted angrily, and the demonic radiance outside her body was dazzling. She punched out, and there seemed to be thousands of divine runes in her fist. It turned into 100 feet long thunder dragon that tore through the sky. Boom! Boom! Heaven and earth collapsed, and loud rumbling sounds came one after another. The entire mountain was instantly shattered. As smoke and dust filled the air, countless bottomless cracks appeared under Lei Yun and Zhang Juji's feet. Boom! In the end, the two attacks collided and the sky collapsed. A terrifying aura swept out, and it made people feel as if their divine souls were shattered. Pucci! Even with Lei Yun's physical strength, she was sent flying by this seal. Blood spurted out of her mouth, and her eyes were already filled with fear. At this moment, she could feel that the woman who attacked was also in the exalted realm. However, her battle prowess was ridiculously strong. In an instant, Lei Yun had the intention to retreat, and her Tao heart trembled. Above the void, Gu Chaoxi's phoenix robe fluttered. She was broad and charming, and her hair fell down. Every strand of her hair shone with an indescribable charm. She just stood there, stunning the world. Her Tao will was overwhelming, and she was like a fairy that had descended. Heaven and earth lost its color, and all sounds were silent. Who are you? Lei Yun got up and wiped the blood stains on the corner of her mouth. With such a celestial appearance, it was impossible for her to be a nobody. However, she did not have any enemies in Qingtsang. Why did this woman attack with such a murderous aura? However, Gu Chaoci still did not respond to her confusion. She pressed her hand down, and a true dragon and immortal phoenix appeared in the void. Humph! No matter who you are, you will have to pay the price for wanting to kill me today. At this moment, Lei Yun could see that the woman's hostility was on her. In other words, she might only want to kill her. Junior brother, I will fight with her later. You retreat first. No. Fifth senior sister, how can I leave you alone? Zhang Juji shook his head and his eyes were firm. Although, with his current strength, he was far from being Lei Yun's opponent, and he could not be compared to the celestial shadow in the void. However, he couldn't escape by himself. Don't worry. I have the treasure of the Thunder Dragon tribe. Not to mention an honorable realm cultivator, even a saint realm cultivator would not be able to kill me. Lei Yun shook her head and said with her divine soul, Junior brother, I suspect that this person might be here for me. Take this space-breaking talisman. You can leave first, and I will be able to escape easily. After that, we will meet in Dao Sky City and wait for second senior sister to come. Then, we will decide what to do. But, hesitation will only lead to defeat. Don't be wishy-washy. In Qingtsang, there are less than 10 people in the same generation who can kill me. Lei Yun looked at Zhang Juji coldly. However, Zhang Juji's face trembled, and he finally gritted his teeth and nodded. Yes. Fifth senior sister, I understand. Remember, Dao Sky City, Heavenly Saint Business Alliance, find Hua Mingxi. Lei Yun reminded him, and a strong desire to fight appeared on her face. Chapter 11:27. You're deliberately mystifying. Let me see how strong you really are. Lei Yun raised her head and looked at the celestial figure. The panic on her face had long disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a touch of tyrannical arrogance. In her hand, there was a deep, dark demonic brilliance that contained an extremely violent destructive force. It was like the punishment of the 9 heavens. Just a trace of fluctuation was enough to distort and shatter space. She was born with a divine object called the Dark Tribulation Divine Thunder. The thunder intent within it was comparable to the perfect thunder law. At this time, Lei Yun was not in a hurry to leave. It was not because she was arrogant or reckless. On the contrary, after seeing Gu Chaoxiai's means, she finally understood that there was a big gap between her and the top monster in Qingtsang. However, this person was mysterious and her aura was concealed. Even if she escaped today, it was inevitable that they would meet again. Such an enemy in the dark made her afraid. Therefore, she tried to force her to use her real trump card so that she could find out her identity. Of course, at this time, Lei Yun already had some guesses in her heart. This person might be the reason why that B*TCH returned to the clan. As long as she died, she would naturally be able to sit on the young master's position. In this way, she would endure for 1,000 years and stand out. Unfortunately, you're too naive. Junior brother, let's go. Lei Yun's eyes flashed and she shouted. Her figure suddenly rose into the air and went straight to Gu Chaoxiai. Purplish-black lightning surged around his body like a demonic sun that was about to destroy the world. In the face of this destructive power, even the void was shattered in an instant. As for the golden light formation that originally enveloped the mountain peak, it immediately began to ripple tens of thousands of feet wide. Zhang Juji's eyes narrowed. He did not dare to hesitate anymore. He stepped out and slammed into the golden array with all his strength. Boom! A terrifying sound of thunder resounded. Even if Zhang Juji had the good fortune saint body, he still seemed small and pitiful under the means set up by 2 saint realm powerhouses. The moment his figure slammed into the array, the ancient array's golden light immediately dimmed, but it quickly recovered its luster. Damn it! Zhang Juji frowned. The sun and moon rose outside his body, and the universe transformed. Then, he held the sun in one hand and the moon in the other and smashed the golden formation. Boom! This time, cracks finally appeared on the thousands of runes. At this moment, Zhang Juji suddenly heard an ear-piercing buzzing sound. A long halberd pierced through the sky like a lightning dragon, instantly piercing through the ancient formation and disappearing into the horizon. Lei Yun's figure turned into an aurora of purple lightning, blocking Gu Chaoxiai in midair. Boom boom! Instantly, heaven and earth collapsed and the void trembled. Thousands of miles of tall mountains were smashed into smithereens by the violent power of lightning. Zhang Jiuji took the opportunity to use the space-breaking talisman to escape from the crack in the golden array. Kill him! Gu Chaoxiai frowned slightly. As she waved her jade-like hands, the cries of dragons and phoenixes resounded through the sky. Ancient celestial light lingered around her, and behind her, there seemed to be a pair of phoenix wings that stretched for thousands of miles. But, to everyone's surprise, there was a golden dragon circling around Gu Chaoxiai's body, revealing an ancient domineering aura. Dragon and phoenix in one. How could it be? The golden light ancient formation rippled quietly and then disappeared without a trace. At the same time, two black-robed figures appeared in the sky and chased in the direction Zhang Jiuji escaped. Boom! Lei Yun's eyes were filled with shock. She only felt a suppression from the bloodline, which made her breathing rapid. This woman, there was not a trace of demonic aura on her body. Why did she have such a terrifying bloodline power? The immortal phoenix ancient dragon appeared in one person's body? Suddenly, a trace of coldness appeared in Lei Yun's heart. Even the purple lightning around her seemed to have dimmed. Everyone knew that the true dragon and the phoenix were the true overlords of the 9 heavens. Not to mention the bloodline, just a trace of their aura was enough to make thousands of demons tremble. But how did this woman merge the aura of the 2 great demon ancestors into her body? Boom! Lei Yun's expression was fierce. She did not dare to hesitate at all and directly revealed her true form. The demonic aura was vast and mighty, turning into a long cloud. The dragon Shadow's body seemed to be made of demonic gold. It was pitch black and condensed. Every scale seemed to have lightning flowing on it. She stood in the sky, blocking the clouds and the sun. Her demonic aura alone made many demons in the Chongshan domain panic and not dare to look directly at her. Seeing this scene, Gu Chaoxiai's face did not have a trace of panic. She raised her slender hand slightly, and a silver moon mark appeared above her head, shining for eternity. Then, she gently pressed down. Buzz! The bright moonlight poured down thousands of miles, instantly shattering the layers of lightning. It was as if the Milky Way was falling and pouring into the world. That brilliance was too dazzling, and it actually made the sky appear a strange silver-white color. It was like snow sealing the sky, but also like white fog gradually rising, charming the eyes. Lei Yun's expression changed drastically. She raised her head and let out a roar. A terrifying thunder waterfall spewed out of her mouth, mixed with a destructive aura. Boom! The moment the 2 attacks collided, the void instantly collapsed, the heavenly Tao was obliterated, and the river of time shattered. The entire mountain seemed to freeze all of a sudden, and the ears buzzed incessantly. Heaven and earth were turned upside down, and the soul trembled. Countless strange phenomena began to deduce. At this moment, Lei Yun seemed to see mountains and rivers rising and falling around the dragon and phoenix immortal shadows, and the sun and moon fell together. Epochs, space-time, and the heavenly Tao alternated and evolved. The 9 heavens were re-established, and reincarnation did not exist. Only a beautiful figure in red stood at the top of the sky, and her beauty was unparalleled. That fair and indifferent immortal face was a kind of indifference to the common people. Heaven and earth were immortal, and they reigned supreme in the world. The chaos reopened, and the Empress appeared. Suddenly, Lei Yun seemed to have thought of something, and her dragon eyes suddenly flashed with a hint of fear. The first Emperor of Chaos. Could this woman be the current generation's taboo that Master mentioned? Boom! The silver moon fell, crushing Lei Yun's dragon body, and smashing into the 10,000 Mountains Tower before falling to the ground. Countless wounds appeared on her body. It was obvious that the Taoist rhyme contained in the moonlight was not something that she could withstand at her current level. Damn it! I'll remember you. Lei Yun gritted her teeth and glared hatefully at Gu Chaoxiai. Her figure suddenly rose into the air, and she was about to escape into the distance. However, at this moment, the sound of a sword suddenly resounded between heaven and earth. Gu Chaoxiai was holding an ancient immortal sword in her hand. This sword was 3 feet long, but it looked shorter than ordinary immortal swords. It was simple and unadorned, and there was not a trace of carving. Only the sword hilt was engraved with 2 delicate and elegant small seal characters. Qing Shao. Boom! Sword Qi turned into a sea, and 7 colored auspicious clouds floated from the east. 100-foot-long sword radiance slashed down from the sky like a falling star, splitting heaven and earth apart. It was different from Ling Zhao's sword in tint. Although this sword was less carefree, it could be said to be extremely domineering. It could break the 9 heavens. Chapter 11:28. Boom, boom. The 100-foot-long sword radiance poured down, separating heaven and earth, yin and yang. The vast sword intent swept across thousands of miles, trapping Tsangming. At this moment, Lei Yun only saw the mountains and seas in front of her being turned upside down. She seemed to have fallen into another world. With one sword, heaven and earth cried. With one sword, chaos was born. This power had already surpassed the category of spiritual power. It was a kind of pure Taoist law power, vast and torrential. It made people feel a sense of unrecoverable fear. No, you can't kill me. Lei Yun shouted at the sky, her eyes filled with despair. Suddenly, golden radiance bloomed around her like the sun, emitting blinding divine light. As the young master of the Thunder Dragon tribe, Lei Yun naturally had some life-saving trump cards. This golden radiance was a sacred weapon given by the Thunder Lord himself, the Golden Light Dragon Divine Shield. Even a 9th stage saint would find it difficult to shake it. With the space-breaking talisman, one could save their life. Unfortunately, Lei Yun had given that space-breaking talisman to Zhang Juji. Or rather, in her eyes, there was no one who could break her physical body apart from this freak of the human race. Until she met the contemporary taboo that her master had mentioned. This sword intent already had the power to kill a saint. Moreover, Gu Chaoxiai's cultivation had already stepped into the saint realm. If she hadn't sealed her great Tao and her cultivation hadn't dropped, why would a mere 7th stage exalt need to waste so much effort? Transcendence. This saint realm was called the deepest level of cultivation. Some people couldn't break through the saint realm in their entire lives, but some people were already born with saint aura. For someone like Lei Yun, who was born with a divine object, it was a symbol of luck. As long as she cultivated step by step, she would be able to stand at the peak of heaven and earth sooner or later. Unfortunately, she met Gu Chaoxiai, a peerless genius who could crush the azure world with luck alone. Boom, boom. The sword radiance fell, and the great Tao resonated. Phantoms of true dragons and immortal phoenixes broke through the sky and let out shocking cries. Endless sword intent connected into a dense line, like a net of heaven and earth, enveloping Lei Yun's body. The golden radiance suddenly froze, and then it rapidly melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. Crack! Until the sound of something shattering quietly resounded, the last trace of hope in Lei Yun's eyes quietly disappeared. Then, before she could even react, she felt a sharp pain in her glabella, and her vitality vanished. Boom! The dragon's body fell from the sky, smashing thousands of mountains into pieces. The immortal radiance on Gu Chaoxiai's face dissipated, revealing her peerlessly fair face. She descended and searched Lei Yun's divine soul, which was about to dissipate. However, she found that there seemed to be a celestial secret concealing it. Even with her strength, she could only see some fragmented images. Only then did she put Lei Yun's body into her cosmos ring and looked up at the distant sky. There were 2 beautiful black clothed figures walking over side by side, and the space between their brows carried a trace of worry. Didn't catch up? Gu Chaoxiai's brows furrowed slightly, and a cold look appeared on her pretty face. On the other hand, Chen Yu and Luo Yen immediately knelt on the ground and said in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, your subordinates are useless." That young man entered the forbidden area of the great mountain region, the Stupa Abyss. Stupa Abyss? Gu Chaoxiai's brows furrowed slightly. The reason why the Great Mountain region was not like the other regions of the Azure Sky region with many sects was that this place was full of mountains and precipitous ridges, but the spirit chi did not gather. Secondly, it was because of the existence of this demonic abyss. There were rumors that there were great demons lurking in this abyss, and no one who entered would survive. A venerable realm ant would definitely die if he escaped into the abyss. What's more, Gu Chaoxiai was afraid that there would be a change in the situation this time, so she always covered her face with immortal radiance. Lei Yun, who had attacked her, was already dead, and only the third young master of the Celestial Wolf clan was left. Send someone to keep an eye on the Stupa Abyss. Gu Chaoxiai said indifferently and flew away. These days, she had been searching for the whereabouts of the Realm Master for Ling Xiao. With the foundation of the Ling people, as long as this disaster could be solved, no one could stop Ling Xiao's hegemonic path. However, the Realm Master's cultivation was heaven-defying, and he was determined to hide his whereabouts. With Gu Chaoxiai's methods, it was impossible to find him. It was said that Lei Yun had a mysterious master who was known as a prophet. Gu Chaoxiai faintly felt that this person was very likely to be related to the great demon that followed the Realm Master to conquer the world. Unfortunately, this young master of the Thunder Dragon clan had a restriction in his soul sea, and Gu Chaoxiai was unable to find out where he was hiding. Supreme Qingmu? At the same time, above a large lake in the south of the demon region. The lake wasn't filled with lake water, but with waves of lightning liquid. This was the ancestral land of the Thunder Dragon clan, the unforgiving Lightning Sea. With the foundation of the Thunder Dragon clan, the Thunder Dragon clan could be said to be second to none among the top 10 demon clans, excluding the clan that once stood at the peak of the demon region. At this moment, a loud and clear dragon roar suddenly resounded in the depths of the Lightning Sea. The Lightning Sea surged with shocking waves, and there seemed to be a silver dragon's shadow that stretched for thousands of miles breaking out of the sky. It occupied the sky above the Lightning Sea and looked down on the entire demon region. It's the ancestor's incarnation. The ancestor's spirit has appeared. Many experts of the Thunder Dragon clan were shocked as they looked up at the Lightning Dragon's shadow with eyes filled with reverence. In front of the Lightning Sea Divine Palace, a silver-robed muscular figure stood with his hands behind his back. There was a gratified smile on his rough face. I didn't expect that Zi Yen could awaken our ancestors' bloodline. The heavens are really protecting our Thunder Dragon clan. In the era of great competition, the heavenly Tao distributes providence, and monstrous geniuses appear. Congratulations, Clan Master. Eldest Miss has returned to the clan and awakened our ancestors' bloodline. We, the Thunder Dragon clan, will prosper in this world. All the elders of the Thunder Dragon clan were also filled with joy. Although Ziyan's bloodline wasn't pure, she still had the direct bloodline of the Thunder Dragon clan. No matter what, she was still the direct bloodline of the Thunder Dragon clan. Now that she had awakened their ancestors' bloodline, it could be said to be a once-in-100,000 years occurrence. Even Lei Yun, who was born with divine lightning, was unable to obtain the inheritance of their ancestor. It was imaginable how rare this opportunity was. Yes, Zi Yan has just returned to the clan, and she has already obtained the recognition of our ancestor. In the future, no one is allowed to deliberately make things difficult for her because of her impure bloodline. Otherwise, we will kill without mercy. The Lightning Master shouted coldly. As he opened his eyes, there seemed to be true lightning circulating. Yes, all the elders bowed with solemn expressions. For some reason, the Lightning Master didn't get angry or care about Ziyen back in the Li clan. However, this time, she was only a supremacy, but the Lightning Master doted on her. Of course, what they didn't know was that Ziyen had already revealed her identity on the first day she returned. Now, she was a follower of Lord Lingxiao, and she had forced the Lightning Master to include her mother in the clan records so that she could be worshipped by the Thunder Dragons. Even if the Taigu Ling people lived in seclusion, their heavenly might was not something the Thunder Dragon clan could provoke. Moreover, it was said that this descendant of the Ling people had already shown her imperial aura. She was peerless and had the demeanor to suppress a generation. If the Thunder Dragon clan could use Ziyen as an opportunity to form a good relationship with the Ling people, even if heaven and earth were unattainable, the demon region might welcome a new ruler. Ever since the Realm Lord appeared hundreds of thousands of years ago and used his supreme cultivation to suppress the thousands of races in the Azure Sky continent and become a supremacy, the demon clan's luck had been exhausted. Now, hundreds of demon clans were curled up in the extreme south. After hundreds of thousands of years, not only did they not accumulate much foundation, but they also became more and more destitute. Although the 10 demon clan lords advanced and retreated together, they didn't have any true respect. In the long run, the demon clan would only be reduced to the background of this world and would never be able to stand out. Not good. Lightning Master. Not good. Just as the Lightning Master was muttering to himself, a hurried shout suddenly came from the distant palace. An old figure stepped down from the sky, his eyes filled with fear and his face pale. Third Elder, why are you so flustered? The Lightning Master frowned slightly, and his originally dignified face became even more solemn. Lightning Master, young Master Lei Yun's life jade is broken. Just as the Third Elder finished speaking, black clouds suddenly gathered in the sky above the lightning sea. Bolts of lightning snaked across the sky, piercing through the sky and smashing down. The Thunder Dragon clan's land shook. All the clansmen looked at the Lightning Sea Divine Hall in shock. Their eyes were filled with shock. Chapter 11:29. What did you say? In the Lightning Sea Divine Palace, the Lightning Master's eyes widened. He was like a Vajra descending into the world. Lightning Master. Young Master's life tablet is broken. The Lightning Dragon Third Elder lowered his head in fear, his expression furious. Given the Lightning Dragon clan's foundation, whoever dared to kill their young master definitely had a great background. Moreover, although Lei Yun was arrogant, her battle strength was extremely terrifying. Not to mention, she also had the divine lightning tribulation and many divine treasures that the Lightning Master had bestowed upon her. Not to mention people of the same generation, even a saint would find it difficult to kill her. Could it be a supreme? But how was that possible? Although the Lightning Dragon clan had a violent temperament, they didn't have any mortal enemies. Who would send a supreme to kill a junior? Investigate. Find out Yun-Er's whereabouts. The Lightning Master roared and suddenly took a step forward, turning into a bolt of lightning. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky above the lightning sea, the Lightning Dragon ancestral elephant still stood at the peak, manifesting its sacred ritual. For a moment, the Lightning Master wondered if Ziyen had secretly killed Yun-Er or asked the Ling people's young master to do it. However, this idea was quickly rejected by the Lightning Master. Ziyen had been cultivating in the ancestral land for more than 2 months, and Yun-Er had only recently left the clan to train. She had no chance to inform others of Yun-Er's whereabouts. Moreover, the young master of the Ling clan was decisive in killing. A few days ago, he had led the Black Devil Guards into the Shao clan and killed the young master of the Shao clan, Shao Moi, in front of everyone and slaughtered a member of the royal family of the lower realm. However, according to rumors, the Ling people's young master was righteous and magnanimous. Even the head disciple of the Daotian Academy's Confucian Institute admired him greatly. Given his status, if Zi Yan really wanted to take revenge on Lei Yun, she definitely wouldn't kill her behind her back. Wouldn't it be more satisfying to crush this younger sister, who had once looked down on her in front of everyone? When Zi Yan returned to the clan and moved her mother's memorial tablet, she had planned to return to the Azure Sea and follow Lord Ling Xiao. It was the Lightning Master who used the inheritance of the ancestral land as an excuse to keep him in the clan. So perhaps in Zi Yan's eyes, the position of Lightning Dragon's junior master wasn't even worth mentioning. What she wanted more was the young master's favor. However, who would not hesitate to offend the Lightning Dragon clan and kill Yun'er? The Thunderbolt Master's expression was ice-cold. His figure flew out and soon, he arrived at the foot of the Heaven and Earth Watchtower Mountain. However, what surprised the Lightning Master was that the Heaven and Earth Tower had disappeared without a trace. Even with his cultivation level, he was unable to detect any clues. Supreme Greenwood, Thunder Dragon clan leader Lei Xiao requests an audience. The Lightning Master's roar was like thunder, breaking through the heavens. Within a radius of 1,000 miles, dark clouds gathered and purple lightning flashed. Even so, the world was still silent, and not a single trace of aura was emitted. Supreme Greenwood, Yun'er's life tablet has been shattered. I hope that Supreme Martial Artist will show himself and dispel Lei Xiao's doubts. No matter how much the Thunder Lord shouted, there was not the slightest change in the forest. Seeing this scene, the Lightning Master immediately sighed softly, turned around and left. Given that Supreme Martial Artist's means, it was impossible for him not to detect his aura. However, since he did not show himself, it was either that he was cultivating in seclusion, or he was unwilling to be implicated. However, as the Lightning Master, he naturally could not let Lei Yun's death go. Someone had to bear the consequences of this matter. By the time the Lightning Master returned to the clan, the strange phenomenon that originally filled the sky had already dissipated. However, Zi Yan had yet to walk out of the ancestral land. Clearly, she was still receiving the inheritance of her ancestor. Great Elder! The Lightning Master sat upright in the hall, his eyes gloomy. Below the hall, an elderly figure immediately walked out slowly and bowed to the Lightning Master. There is no need to make this matter public for now. Since someone dared to kill Yun'er, they must have the confidence to deal with my Lightning Dragon clan. The Lightning Master's expression was grave, and a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. I heard that the Azure Demon's traces have been revealed recently, and that the Sky Demon's subordinates have been secretly collecting blood spirits and killing geniuses. Could it be that Yun'er had encountered a demon? Thinking of this, the Lightning Master only felt a chill rising from the soles of his feet, and his expression became increasingly gloomy and cold. Great Elder, investigate this matter personally. Yun'er has just left the clan. Even if she walked out of the demon region, she can't be too far away. Yes, Lightning Master. At the same time, in the center of the heavy mountain region, the aura of death here surged, and poisonous fog rose and fell. There was a 10,000-foot-long abyss that spanned thousands of mountains. It was deep and serene, causing one to feel terrified at a glance. This abyss was the Stupa Abyss that people spoke of. It was said that countless living beings mysteriously disappeared here every year. And all the cultivators who wanted to enter the abyss to explore its secrets, without exception, never appeared again. Over time, the Stupa Abyss became a forbidden area for living beings. Normally, no one would set foot in it at all. At this moment, under the abyss, Zhang Juji stood up with a painful expression. There was a look of confusion on his face. When he was escaping just now, he had felt the evil aura of this place. However, it was impossible for him to escape from the pursuit of two stage experts. In the end, with a trace of luck, Zhang Juji fell into the abyss and hid in the fog. As expected, The two stage experts did not dare to go deep and soon disappeared. But, to Zhang Juji's surprise, just when he thought he had escaped disaster, a strange fluctuation suddenly came from the depths of the abyss. His entire body was pulled by a huge force, and he fell unconsciously as if he had fallen into a swamp. This force was extremely mysterious and seemed to be able to confine space. Even if Zhang Juji struggled desperately, he could not escape and fell to the ground in a sorry state. Damn it! What the hell is this? Zhang Juji struggled to get up, but no matter how he used his spiritual power, he found that his body seemed to be controlled by a huge force, and it was extremely difficult to take a step forward. Sun and moon shine together, break. Accompanied by a deep shout, the sun and moon suddenly hung high above Zhang Juji's head, illuminating the entire abyss as if it was daytime. Then, his face suddenly surged with a strong sense of fear and shock. There was a mountain of white bones under his feet. On the mountain of white bones, there seemed to be an ancient sword that was as black as ink, and it revealed a ghastly demonic aura. Zhang Juji's expression turned cold. Even if he had never entered the world, he could still guess that this ancient sword was probably the evil object that people spoke of. But, just as Zhang Juji was struggling to escape from this place, a strange sound suddenly came from the layers of white bones. Gulp! Even with Zhang Juji's tenacity, he still turned pale when he heard the sound of a human in this place. He staggered and fell to the ground, and there was nothing but fear in his eyes. I didn't expect him to be a coward, hee. Suddenly, a petite figure stepped out from the darkness and stood on the mountain of white bones. It was a beautiful girl with a delicate smile on her delicate little face. There was a red blood mole between her eyebrows, and it was demonic and strange. Her skin was sickly pale, almost translucent. Her long hair was like a waterfall, and it blended together with her black clothes. You? Who are you? What was even more frightening was that the girl's feet were not on the mountain of white bones, but floating in the air. Chapter 1130. Who am I? The black-clothed girl was at a loss. Then, a sinister smile appeared on her face. You smell really good. You smell better than the demonic beasts in this mountain. As she spoke, she had already floated to Zhang Juji's side. She lay on his body and sniffed gently. Hiss! Zhang Juji felt all the hair on his body stand on end. He suddenly realized something. This mountain of bones, could it be that this girl ate them one by one? At this moment, he couldn't sense the girl's aura at all. In other words, this person was either a mortal with no cultivation, or she had already exceeded the range of his perception. But Zhang Juji was now a 5th-level Venerable Realm expert. Even a Saint Realm expert couldn't completely conceal their aura in front of him. Could it be that this seemingly delicate girl was actually an old monster? A Supreme Realm expert? Gulp! Your physique seems to be a bit special. I wonder how much my cultivation will recover if I eat you. The black-clothed girl licked her lips and sized up Zhang Juji. Don't worry. It won't hurt. Senior. However, just as the girl opened her mouth and revealed a mouthful of sharp fangs, Zhang Juji suddenly shouted. The girl was so scared that her delicate body trembled. What are you shouting for? Senior. To be honest, my physique is the good fortune saint physique. It can break all the tribulations in the world. I see that Senior's glabella is dark. I'm afraid that you don't have much lifespan left. Other than being your food, how can I help you? At this moment, Zhang Juji thought that since this girl had such divine power and could change space, why would she be willing to hide here and wait for her prey to come to her? Looking at the bones in this abyss, it was impossible to accumulate to such an extent without tens of thousands of years. In other words, this girl most likely wasn't willing to stay here, but she couldn't get out. Could it be because of that sword? Zhang Juji looked at the girl in front of him sincerely. As expected, He saw a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. He was delighted. Calculating the time, fifth senior sister should have escaped. He couldn't be trapped here and make his senior sisters worry. Help me with what? You're just a little ant. What can you help me with? The black-clothed girl's body suddenly emitted a wisp of desolation, and even her desire for blood and flesh seemed to be less intense. Senior, you might not know this, but my saint body has the power to create misfortune. If you don't tell me, how would you know that I can't help you? Zhang Juji shook his head and smiled. Suddenly, he raised his hands to the sky. I, Zhang Juji, swear on my Taoheart that as long as I can help Senior get out of this predicament, Juji is willing to do my best. In the end, there was no way he could survive against such a supreme evil spirit. Not to mention this place was strange, and space was like a swamp. Even if he wanted to flee, he was utterly unable to struggle free. So, he could only take things one step at a time. Why are you helping me? The black-clothed girl muttered, as if she had lost her mind. It was probably because she had been lonely for tens of thousands of years that she was happy to see a young man full of vigor. Oh no, it's because of luck. She was a monster that could eat people without blinking, a powerhouse that had lived for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. Why would she suddenly become indecisive when she met the main character? Why would she even fall in love with him? Was it because the protagonist was handsome? Did this demon have a sudden change of heart? Don't ask. If you ask, it's your luck. If you're curious, you'll get it for free. This is an eternal law. It's because I can feel your loneliness. I believe that you don't want to be like this, but you're forced to do so or to break free from some kind of restraint. A sly look flashed across Zhang Juji's eyes. Although it was his first time entering the world, his master was a reclusive powerhouse that had seen through the prosperity of the mortal world. What was seen through? After experiencing too much, one would lose interest, or perhaps one would be hurt by love and have no more attachments. Although he didn't know why his master had chosen to live in seclusion, his master had taught him many principles of dealing with matters since he was young, as well as different ways to get along with the strong and the weak. Moreover, the memories from before the age of 5 had determined his temperament to be steady, meticulous, and able to make choices. Although the range of this mountain of bones was 1,000 feet, compared to the entire Buddha abyss, it was only a corner. What did this mean? It meant that this supreme evil spirit couldn't walk more than 1,000 feet. Otherwise, with her strength, why would she stay here? Even if she didn't dare to come out, at least the bottom of the demon abyss was a dark place that no one dared to step into. Thinking of this, Zhang Juji became more and more certain that perhaps the root of all this was on that ancient sword. Although he couldn't see the appearance of the ancient sword clearly, just the tip of the sword revealed an ancient feeling. This must be a peerless divine sword that was unknown to the world. You are not afraid of me? The black-robed girl's eyes were filled with curiosity. How many tens of thousands of years had she curled up here and dragged out an ignoble existence, using the flesh and blood of living beings as nourishment to not completely disappear under the corrosion of time? In the past, those who fell here struggled in fear. Even those who were at the peak of the saint realm were not different. Seeing her was like seeing a great horror, and it was difficult for them to maintain their composure. This young man was indeed a little different. After all, she had nothing to live for and didn't have much time to waste. She might as well give it a try. Perhaps he could really bring her some surprises? At the very least, with her strength, what could this young man do? I have always believed that there is no such thing as good or evil in this world. It's just that our standpoints are different and we seek different things. Zhang Juji shook his head and the corner of his lips curled up into a bitter smile. To be honest, my bloodline is considered special. I am half human and half demon. In the eyes of humans, I am a demon and should be killed. In the eyes of demons, I am also a human. We are both different. So you are also a pitiful person. In the end, the girl sighed softly. There was a trace of playfulness in her eyes, like a cat playing with a mouse. How did you fall into this abyss? I was being hunted down. Zhang Juji's face was inexplicably gloomy. Until now, he still didn't know who wanted to kill him. However, the otherworldly celestial shadow that stood on top of the sky was like a demon that haunted his heart. Lei Yun was already considered a peerless beauty in the world. However, before the celestial shadow, she lost some of her celestial aura and appeared a little ordinary. Who was she? Are you at a dead end? The girl in black laughed mockingly. She was still like a star that shone with immortal radiance. For a moment, Zhang Juji was stunned. Upon closer inspection, the girl's pretty face was exquisite and looked like it was carved out of jade. Why are you looking at me like that? Cough, cough. Senior's beauty is really… I can't take my eyes off you. Zhang Juji scratched his head and muttered in a slightly naive manner. Ha ha ha, young man, you really don't know what's good for you. The girl in black glared at Zhang Juji fiercely. However, it suits my temper. I have yet to ask for Senior's name. What difficulties do you have? I am Yin Yu of the Rakshasa clan. As for what difficulties I have encountered, my Rakshasa body was imprisoned in a sword by a despicable immortal. It was difficult for me to break free. The girl in black snorted coldly. There seemed to be a great force around her. Instantly, the entire abyss was filled with evil wind and blood. Chapter 1131. The Rakshasa Clan? Zhang Juji narrowed his eyes. He had heard of this clan before. It was said that this clan fed on flesh and blood and was extremely evil. However, when the immortal clan ruled the world, they had wantonly killed immortals and demons. The first three clans to bear the brunt were the Nether clan, Rakshasa, and Asura clans. These three clans were all cruel and bloodthirsty, and they would easily massacre the world. He did not expect that there would be a Rakshasa in the Azure ordinary realm. What? Are you scared? Seeing Zhang Juji's gloomy face, Yin Yu's eyes flashed coldly. It's not that I'm scared. I just didn't expect to see a legendary existence like you in my lifetime. Zhang Juji shook his head and smiled bitterly. He suddenly took a deep breath. Senior, the sword you're talking about should be that one, right? That's right. This sword is called the Nine Suns Pagoda, and it's the most precious treasure of the Immortal clan. However, it fell into the mortal world during the Immortal and Demon Pagoda's conquest, and it's no longer as powerful as it used to be. Yin Yu's face flashed coldly. It was obvious that she hated the Immortal clan member who had sealed her. Originally, that Immortal clan member sealed me so that I could be the sword soul of this sword and help him conquer the world. However, he was heavily injured and fell into this realm in the last battle. I don't know whether he's dead or alive now. However, after hundreds of thousands of years, he's most likely dead. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left this sword alone. Senior, what can I help you with? Greed flashed in Zhang Juji's eyes. An item of the Immortal clan. Even if this sword's power was less than 10%, its grade was probably not something an ordinary sacred weapon could compare to. Moreover, with a supreme being as the sword soul, once he could control this sword, what was there to worry about? The current sequence and the 13 taboos? This sword's power is sky-high, and its blade can create a domain called the pagoda. Even if a supreme being enters this domain, his body will feel heavy as if he's carrying a mountain, and it'll be difficult for him to move. Yin Yu looked at Zhang Juji with slight admiration. Even if no one is controlling it now, ordinary saints can't bear the power of this sword. You're not bad. Haha, Senior, you're too kind. Does this mean that as long as I can control this sword, I'll be able to help Senior escape? Zhang Juji took the opportunity to ask, but Yin Yu shook her head slightly. I have long since become one with this sword. It's just that I don't want to help that immortal, so my spiritual wisdom hasn't disappeared. But even so, I'm afraid that in another 100 years, I will be completely devoured by this sword. Is there really no other way? Zhang Jiuji pretended to be heartbroken, but he was already thinking about how to make this Rakshasa girl help him control this sword. Amen. However, there is still 100 years. If you can control this sword, perhaps you can bring me around. It has been more than 100,000 years. I am already tired of the darkness. Inu raised her head to look at the abyss. If it weren't for her tenacious nature, and the fact that she had once stood at the peak of the sky, she would have already gone completely crazy in this dark time. But, inexplicably, there seemed to be a flash of evil in her eyes. Is this sword very difficult to control? Zhang Jiuji was overjoyed. He turned his head to look at the ancient sword hilt that was inserted into the peak of the mountain of bones. Although he had the good fortune saint body and also cultivated the ancient scriptures passed down by his master, he didn't have any supreme spiritual treasures on him. Once he could control this immortal king's sword and had a supreme powerhouse to protect him for 100 years, who in the Azure world would be his opponent? According to this plot, this Rakshasa girl must have some secret. When Zhang Jiuji's cultivation gradually became stronger, he would uncover new secrets of heaven and earth bit by bit. Thus, in the process of the plot's development, interspersed with some ancient conspiracies and set up suspense to make people unable to stop. Even for this Rakshasa girl at the beginning, he couldn't make her truly lose her mind. Otherwise, he would be scolded for being brainless. He had to make her have some purpose, and then through the trials of life and death, she would be subdued by the protagonist's character. In this way, the plot's development was reasonable and brilliant. This sword once killed all the evil in the 9 heavens. Even I am deeply afraid of its evil aura. With your realm, once your Tao heart becomes unstable, it is very likely that you will fall into eternal damnation. Inyu's tone was dignified. She sighed softly, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. Actually, you don't need to take this risk. As long as you swear with your Tao heart that you will not expose my whereabouts, I will let you go. Senior, you are underestimating Jiuji too much. I will never go back on my words. Jiuji is willing to give it a try. I only want to take Senior out of this abyss. Zhang Jiuji's face was resolute. His body seemed to be blooming with brilliance. What a joke! A supreme powerhouse slave and an ancient immortal sword. This kind of good fortune was right in front of his face. Only a fool would refuse. Hearing this, Inyu's eyes became gentler. She nodded slightly and turned to walk towards the peak of the mountain of bones. However, the moment she turned around, there was a trace of extreme evil in the depths of her eyes. Then come with me. I will do my best to help you control this sword. Thank you, Senior. Zhang Jiuji took a deep breath. There seemed to be Tao rhymes circulating around his body. Around his body, the sun and the moon intertwined and evolved into the holy light. As for his feet, it was extremely difficult for him to take a step forward. Sweat sprinkled from the top of his head, but the young man's face was abnormally resolute. It was inexplicably moving. Time passed slowly. After 7 days, when Zhang Jiuji fell to the peak of the mountain of bones with an exhausted expression, the hilt of the divine sword was only inches away from him. Looking at the young man soaked in sweat, Inyu nodded slightly. Thousands of evil lights flashed in her eyes. Good temperament. Obviously, this young man already had all the characteristics of an expert. Talent, temperament, and even emotional intelligence were all the best. Such a person would definitely bloom in this era and would also face many enemies. This abyss was now a purgatory on Earth. Normally, there would be no flesh and blood creatures rashly coming here. Therefore, in the past 100 years, Inyu had rarely encountered meat to replenish herself. However, her body was restrained and she could not walk out of this abyss. And as long as Zhang Jiuji could control this sword, she could step out of this place with him and go on an expedition. At that time, wouldn't she have all the flesh and soul she wanted? Yes, it was very difficult for her to break free from the shackles of this immortal sword. If she could live, who would be willing to die? Wasn't assisting Zhang Juji to reach the top of the world also a kind of redemption for her? Take a rest and see if you can suppress this sword with your spiritual power. I will help you suppress the evil intent within. Yin Yu's face bloomed with a touch of gentleness and her eyes were deep. Hundreds of thousands of years had passed. How many people in this world still remembered her, Yin Yu demonic Buddhist? I'm fine. Senior. Let's begin. Zhang Juji shook his head. He had already delayed here for 7 days. He was afraid that fifth senior sister had most likely arrived at Dao Sky City. If he delayed any longer, she would be worried. Thinking this, Zhang Juji immediately reached out and grasped the ancient sword hilt. Buzz! Suddenly, a sword cry resounded in the depths of the abyss. Thousands of rays of light tore through the darkness and illuminated the sky. A look of surprise immediately appeared on Zhang Juji's face. At this moment, he seemed to feel that the ancient Yuan-Tian scripture was deducing on its own around him. The divine power of the sun and moon intertwined and merged, as if the primordial chaos had reappeared at the beginning of the world. The entire mountain of bones trembled and endless Taoist rhythms fluctuated for thousands of miles. Chapter 1132. Buzz! In the sky above the divinity battlefield, the shadow of a blue phoenix flew across the sky, heading towards the central divine mountain. The two black demon guards frowned. Just as they were about to fly into the sky, they were stopped by a low voice. Don't stop her. The two of them were stunned. They turned around and bowed to Ling Yuanxing, who was standing in front of the ancestral hall. Ancestor. Ling Yuanxing nodded slightly. He looked up at the demon shadow that covered the sky. His eyes were deep, but there was a subtle smile on his face. The great Empress Immortal Phoenix, Gu Chaoxiai. Naturally, he had heard of this great Empress. She was one of the 10 sequences of Qing Tsang. She was born with the will of the Phoenix and had comprehended the most mysterious law of chaos in the world. As long as such a monster didn't die, she would definitely reach the top of the world in the future and create a new era. Ling Yuanxing didn't know how the great Empress got involved with him. However, it was obvious that with this woman following him, Ling Zhao's future would be more brilliant. However, it was said that this great Empress was cold, domineering, and decisive. Thinking of the women gathered on the divine mountain, Ling Yuanxing broke out in cold sweat for Ling Xiao. Boom! When the shadow of the blue phoenix stopped in the sky, Gu Chaoxiai stepped down from the sky. Her phoenix robe was bright and loose, with countless golden patterns embroidered on it. Her hair was casually draped over her shoulders, covering half of her face. She was noble and peerless. Under her feet, there were layers of strange phenomena. The galaxy, the divine mountain, and the phoenix dragon bowed its head. Instantly, on the divine mountain, several pairs of eyes looked over, mixed with coldness and shock. Especially Jean Honor, whose eyes were filled with jealousy and hatred. In terms of status, she was almost the same as Gu Chaoxiai. Moreover, if it weren't for Ling Xiao, the immortal Phoenix ancient dynasty would have fallen long ago. In terms of talent, Gu Chaoxiai was indeed unparalleled. However, where did Jean Honor fall short? But now, this great Empress Immortal Phoenix was not only the wife of the Ling people's young master, but also the only flaw that could make the young master let go of everything and become an enemy of the world. And she was just a servant. How could she be worthy of the young master's attention? Why? Buzz! Gu Chaoxiai's figure landed on the ground. Celestial radiance blossomed under her jade-like feet, spotless by even a speck of dust. In his hand was a white jade cauldron. Spiritual light flowed around the cauldron and there was a faint heat emanating from it. Where's Ling Xiao? Gu Chaoxiai frowned as he glanced at the three beautiful figures walking over from different directions. His expression became increasingly calm and indifferent. Young master is in seclusion in the palace. He said that no one is to disturb him. Jean Honor said calmly. But the moment she finished speaking, Gu Chaozi pushed open the door of the ancient palace and walked in. Jean Honor's pretty face froze as she recalled the scene when she first met Ling Xiao. In the end, she didn't dare to stop him and glared hatefully at the beautiful figure in the phoenix robe. Ba, this must be Master Ling Xiao's fiancée, Empress Gu Chaoxiai. Although Yaoguang's eyes were clear, they couldn't hide the dimness in them. She didn't know why, but seeing Gu Chaoxiai so unscrupulous, she was inexplicably envious. She only dared to be so casual because she was favored. In the entire Azure continent, perhaps only this empress had the right to be so unscrupulous in front of Ling Xiao. Wasn't love supposed to be like this? As they were both in the sequence, Yaoguang didn't have any scruples about Gu Chaoxiai. However, in the end, cultivation and talent couldn't decide everything. In the realm, Ling Xiao sat cross-legged in the void. Around him, there seemed to be countless sword intents that evolved. There were bursts of multicolored light and auspicious signs all over the sky. At this moment, although his cultivation level didn't increase at all, inexplicably, his aura seemed to have become more piercingly cold and vigorous. The Saint Realm was an important realm on the path to immortality. Above the Saint Realm, one had to transcend mortality. Therefore, this realm was also known as the heaven-defying realm. The higher one's cultivation level, the more the heavenly Tao didn't tolerate the shackles of the heavenly Tao. Therefore, the lightning tribulation of this realm was a taboo for cultivators. It was a great tribulation of life and death. Even if someone touched the threshold of the Saint Realm, less than 1 in 10 could safely survive this tribulation. Because of this, the lightning tribulation was filled with the Tao of heaven and earth. It contained the most original power of heaven and earth. Bathing in it, one's mortal aura would be cleansed, and one's blood spirit would be transformed into a true saint body and saint will. Those who could last for a day in the divine tribulation had their bodies sanctified and were immortal with heaven and earth. And those who could last for 3 days almost all had the potential to become supremes. Since ancient times, those who truly stood at the top of the world and ruled over a realm were mostly those who had been cleansed for more than 7 days in the divine tribulation. Above that, they were truly unique in the 9 heavens. It was said that when Gu Chaoxiai became a saint, she had lasted for 49 days in the divine tribulation. Therefore, on the day she became a saint, she was known as the Azure Sequence. She was even seen as the next Azure Great Emperor. Unfortunately, her cultivation level had fallen and her future was uncertain. It was somewhat lamentable. And now, the reason why Ling Xiao was not in a hurry to become a saint was because he was waiting for an opportunity to temper his body. He hoped that he could seize more of the qi of heaven and earth in this opportunity. Of course, some disciples of ancient sects and clans would sometimes use the power of spiritual treasures to resist the divine tribulation in order to safely enter the saint realm. Such people were mostly called false saints. Even if they could cultivate to the peak of the saint realm, their combat power and physical body could not compete with a true saint realm expert. Their path to immortality had completely come to an end. But even so, in the Azure Heavens, the Saint Realm was already the peak combat power of a force. Since ancient times, there seemed to be many people who had truly stepped into the Supremes, but in terms of the number of living beings, they were still very rare. They were the foundation of the various clans. This was why the heavenly sovereign of the Foliaceae had been killed with a single order that day had caused such a huge commotion. If there were no accidents, the heavenly sovereign's lifespan could be said to be very long. They were the fortune of a clan at its peak. Ling people's dominance was evident. Ling Xiao lowered his head and glanced at his arms. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. During this period of time, he had been using the villain points to temper his body. Now, he had forged 100 of the 3,000 sword bones. With his current cultivation, even a wisp of sword intent could kill anyone below the Saint realm. With a thought, Ling Xiao suddenly appeared in the ancient palace of the Divine Mountain. He looked up at the beautiful figure in the phoenix robe who had broken through the door. His eyes suddenly narrowed. The fortune turned into a sea, gushing out from the top of Gu Chaoxiai's head like a sun. Thousands of auspicious rays, mysterious and yellow, a kind of realm power gradually formed in a 7-foot radius. Chaotic dragon phoenix, immortal body. Wife? Why are you here? Could it be that you miss your husband? Gu Chaoxiai's face was cold. She put the jade cauldron in her hand on the table and sat down cross-legged. Then, she took out a few jade bowls of immortal wine from her interspatial ring and said indifferently, "Where's Yi Qin-chan?" She went back to the foliaceae. "Wife, you came all the way here just to give me this cauldron of fresh soup?" Ling Xiao walked behind Gu Chaoxiai and hugged her from behind. He whispered in her ear, "Wife, I will be touched by you." Feeling the warmth by her ear, Gu Chaoxiai's pretty face froze. She struggled out of Ling Xiao's embrace. "Touched? I don't believe that demons have such vulgar emotions. Let them come in together." "Okay." Ling Xiao smiled faintly and said calmly, "Arhut, cousin Weiyang, Jean Honor, my wife personally made fresh soup. Come in and have a taste." Chapter 1133. Ba. Outside the ancient palace, Yao Guang and the other two were surprised. Jean Honor couldn't help but mutter, "Would Gu Chaoxiai be so kind? Could it be that the soup was poisoned?" "Miss Honor, be careful with your words. Praising the Empress is young master's fiancé. I heard that young master fought 3 saints alone, killed the divine spirit crown prince, and crippled the Shi family's prodigy, Shi Haotian. If you don't want to anger young master, you'd better restrain yourself." Xianyuan Weiyang looked deeply at Jean Han and reminded her softly. This Xianyuan princess was simple-minded and didn't understand the insidiousness of the world. However, she was still a descendant of an emperor clan and wasn't ignorant. Gu Chaoxiai was obviously young master's reverse scale. Even if she casually provoked her, young master would be furious, let alone Jean Han. "Haha, Miss Weiyang, so you're young master's cousin. I thought." Jean Honor smiled and reached out to grab Xianyuan Weiyang's arm. "You and young master are so close. You don't look like siblings." "Miss Honor, be careful with your words." Xianyuan Weiyang's face flushed red, and she took the lead to walk into the ancient palace. When the 3 of them walked into the palace, they saw that Ling Xiao had already filled their bowls with fresh soup and was drinking wine by himself. "Try it." Ling Xiao smiled gently, picked up one of the jade bowls, and drank it. Instantly, he felt a warm feeling travel through his body. His spirit energy was boiling, and his blood was surging. Even with his temperament, a look of surprise appeared on his face at this moment. Jean Han and the others similarly revealed a wisp of astonishment when they saw the Tao aura and divine radiance rippling around Ling Xiao. However, at this moment, Yao Guang seemed to be hesitating and softly chanted a Buddhist name. "Haha, Arhut, as the saying goes, wine and meat pass through the intestines, but Buddha's heart remains. Buddha talks about karma and everything is empty. Arhut, please don't let down my wife's efforts." Ling Xiao had a smile on his face as he scooped out another bowl from the cauldron. He shook his head slightly and said, "I didn't expect my wife to have such skills. Looks like your husband will be able to enjoy life in the future." Gulp. Jean Han and Xianyuan Weiyang both scooped a spoonful and took a sip. Their eyes flashed with shock. After that, the 2 of them no longer had any misgivings, and they lowered their heads and drank all the soup in the jade bowl. Seeing this, Yao Guang became even more curious. Finally, under Ling Zhao's gaze, he took a small bite. It felt a little numb. Praising the Empress, this soup is delicious. What kind of spiritual material was used to make it? Xianyuan Weiyang's face was flushed red. It was obvious that she couldn't resist the spiritual energy in the soup. She felt dizzy. 1,000-year snow lotus, 10,000-year ginseng, pearl powder from the Wuji deep sea, desert Ganoderma from the northern wilderness, and Gu Chaoxiai turned around and looked at Ling Xiao with her clear eyes. Xianyuan Weiyang counted with his fingers and memorized all the spiritual materials. He couldn't help but feel curious. Although these spiritual materials were precious, they weren't rare in the world. However, the spiritual energy in this soup almost made her break through on the spot. Could it be that the method of making this soup was unique? What else is there? Empress, tell me. There's also the blood-bone demon core of a pure-blooded and extremely beautiful supremacy realm dragon lady. Just as Gu Chaoxiai finished speaking, Yao Guang spat out a mouthful of filth. Xianyuan Weiyang and Jin Han's faces turned pale instantly. They almost vomited on the spot. At this moment, the three of them were filled with indescribable fear and shock. Supremacy Realm Dragon Lady? All pure-blooded dragons either had a powerful background or were the descendants of the most powerful demons. Gu Chaoxiai actually slaughtered a pure-blooded dragon lady and used her blood-bone demon core to make soup for Ling Xiao? How many people in the entire Azure world had the guts to do so? Of course, demons devoured humans. Humans also liked to eat demons with powerful bloodlines for cultivation. However, to Xianyuan Weiyang and the other two, it wasn't that they didn't dare to kill a dragon. However, this extremely beautiful dragon lady. Was Gu Chaoxiai hinting at something? Ba. It's a sin. Yao Guang frowned and looked serious. Everyone, how does it taste? Gu Chaoxiai's face didn't change at all. The mysterious master behind Lei Yun might be related to the Realm Lord. Therefore, Ling Xiao would oppose this person sooner or later. Of course, even if her guess was wrong, with Ling Xiao's means, it wouldn't be too difficult for him to hide this matter. Ba. Praising the Empress, aren't you afraid that you'll be killed because of this? Hearing this, Gu Chaoxiai didn't reply. Instead, she looked at Ling Xiao. From the beginning to the end, the young master of the Ling people's expression didn't change at all. When he saw Gu Chaoxiai looking at him, he revealed a gentle smile. Wife, why are you looking at me? Of course, your husband thinks that this soup tastes great. Ling Zhao's lips curled into a sinister smile. He looked at Gu Chaoxiai with a deep meaning. I've said it before. In this azure sky world, whoever dares to provoke my wife will die without a doubt. Wife, do you need me to lead the Black Devil Guards and exterminate this dragon lady's clan to prevent more trouble? This, hearing Ling Zhao's words, Yao Guang and the other two girls were even more shocked. He didn't even ask a single question and wanted to exterminate the entire clan? How domineering, how doting was this? Inexplicably, although the three girls felt that this was inappropriate, they were still envious. They were envious that no matter what Gu Chaoxiai did, the young master would always stand behind her and shield her from all the wind and rain. There's no need for that. This dragon lady wanted to look for you, but I happened to meet her and killed her. Gu Chaoxiai played it down, but the meaning behind her words made Yao Guang and the other two girls' expressions freeze. Xianyuan Weiyang especially lowered his head and sipped the wine in his cup. He didn't even dare to look at Gu Chaoxiai. Haha, since my wife is here, I'll show you around the deity battlefield. Ling Xiao nodded slightly. He grabbed Gu Chaoxiai's hand and walked out of the hall. Xianyuan Weiyang only let out a sigh of relief when the two of them were far away. He looked at the cauldron of dragon soup again and felt a little sad. Don't tell me that one day I'll be caught by this Empress Gu and stewed? It's too scary. It's really too scary. It looks like I can't leave the young master's side in the future. Otherwise, if Gu Chao Ci wants to kill someone, the young master will most likely help her, right? If that's the case, I'll definitely die. The two of you, Gu Chao Ci is so unscrupulous. She'll definitely bring trouble to the young master in the future. Why don't we wait for the young master to come back and persuade him together? Jean Han Er's eyes flickered. Her expression was solemn. Ba. I don't want to drink another bowl of golden crow soup tomorrow. Yao Guang looked at Jean Han Er calmly and got up to leave. Xianyuan Weiyang nodded fiercely. Miss Han Er, you're on your own. You! Jean Han Er's lips trembled. But when she thought of what Ling Xiao said just now, she felt a chill rise from the bottom of her feet. She couldn't help but shiver. Chapter 1134. Speak. What's going on? In the deity battle domain. At this moment, two figures descended from the sky and landed on the peak of a mountain. Ling Xiao released Gu Chao Ci's hand and looked down at the mountains and rivers with his hands clasped behind his back. Although his tone was still gentle and calm, Gu Chao Ci felt an inexplicable chill in her ears. Given Ling Xiao's understanding of Gu Chao Ci, she definitely wouldn't do such a senseless thing just to intimidate the three women. Therefore, there must be a hidden story behind the dragon girl's death. Humph! Gu Chao Ci snorted coldly. Her face was cold, but she didn't say anything. Given your personality, you wouldn't kill this dragon girl just because she came to find me. What's going on? Ling Xiao turned and looked calmly at Gu Chao Ci. However, the more calm he was, the more terrified the latter became. A dragon girl wasn't a threat to him at all. However, Ling Xiao didn't like the feeling of being out of control. This girl is called Lei Yun. She's the young master of the Lightning Dragon clan. She's the junior brother of the Celestial Wolf clan's third young master. Looking at the deep eyes in front of her, Gu Chao Ci didn't dare to act in a fit of pique and said softly, Young master of the Lightning Dragon clan? The third young master of the Celestial Wolf clan? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. In that case, Gu Chao Ci's actions had given Ziyin a great opportunity? It seemed that the third young master of the Celestial Wolf clan had already died. Ling Xiao had heard about what had happened to the Celestial Wolf clan recently. In order to prove his innocence, the clan master of the Celestial Wolf clan had voluntarily allowed the other 9 demon lords to search his soul and become mentally retarded. As for the third young master, he most likely wanted to kill him and colluded with Lei Yun to seek revenge. However, Gu Chao Ci found out and killed him. Previously, when Gue Ying was hiding in the dark and following Gu Chao Ci, he had already seen some of the hidden guards under the Empress' control. Now it seemed that his fiancée had really helped him solve many problems behind his back. That's right. This third young master of the Welkin Wolf clan is called Zhang Juji. He's at the Exalt realm, and he's a hybrid of a human and a demon. He was expelled by the Welkin Wolf clan at a young age, and he's only returned to the clan recently. After he found out about what happened to the Welkin Wolf clan, he decided to come to the Azure continent to investigate the truth. Gu Chao Ci said indifferently, her beautiful face carrying a rare trace of grievance. Just now, Ling Xiao was angry. He actually got angry. What a waste of my good intentions. Wait. Hearing this, a hint of surprise appeared on Ling Xiao's face. He had left the clan when he was young and had just returned to the clan. Just from the sound of it, it was obvious that he was destined to be born. Wife, you're wasting it. You killed Zhang Juji too? No. The reason I'm here today is to inform you of this matter so that there won't be any unforeseen events. Gu Chao Ci sighed softly. Although this third young master of the Welkin Wolf clan had fallen into the stupa abyss that day, he was most likely dead. However, these few days, Gu Chao Ci kept feeling uneasy, as if something big was going to happen. Therefore, she ran over to Ling Xiao with the intention of reminding Ling Xiao. She had concealed her appearance, but this Zhang Jiuji originally came for Ling Xiao. Once he had a fortuitous encounter in the stupa abyss, things would become complicated. No! Ling Xiao's eyes trembled slightly. Not only was there not a trace of anger on his face, but there was also a trace of joy on his face. Wife, tell me in detail what happened that day. Okay. Gu Chaoci frowned slightly. Obviously, she didn't understand why Ling Xiao was so happy. She immediately recounted what had happened that day in detail. Stupa abyss? Ling Xiao nodded slightly. The soul light in his eyes was resplendent, and he was already pondering in his heart. To be able to escape from Gu Chaoci's hands, this Zhang Jiuji's luck must be extremely terrifying. At the very least, it should be close to Yang Yuan's. However, in a forbidden area like the Stupa Abyss, even if there was a fortuitous encounter, it would most likely be a demonic inheritance. In this case, as long as this Tianming came out alive, there might be something evil on him. In this case, it wasn't impossible to make use of it. Lei Yun's death was most likely unknown to Zhang Jiuji, but the Lightning Dragon clan definitely had her soul tablet. In other words, the Lightning Dragon clan should already be searching for the person who killed Lei Yun. In this way, if Zhang Jiuji was originally an evil demon and deliberately concealed his identity, wouldn't it be very clear that Lei Yun was traveling with him and the murderer? Of course, the prerequisite for this plan to work was that the Lightning Dragon clan temporarily didn't encounter Zhang Jiuji. With the Lightning Dragon clan's foundation, it wouldn't be easy to find a young man in the Azure Sky world even if all the experts were sent out. Moreover, Zhang Jiuji had just experienced a robbery and was most likely a frightened bird now. As long as the Lightning Lord had some brains, he wouldn't search for someone with great fanfare under the premise that he didn't know the enemy clearly. Just now, you said that Zhang Jiuji and Lei Yun were senior and junior brothers? However, what made Ling Xiao slightly puzzled was what kind of template this Zhang Jiuji was. The Son of Heaven's mandate had a miserable background. However, what differentiated their templates was the golden finger obtained from this miserable experience. For example, someone fell into a mountain stream and found a ring. Someone's bloodline was dug out and awakened a stronger bloodline. Or someone accidentally picked up a stone that contained the inheritance of a celestial venerable. In any case, the more ridiculous it was, the higher the luck. Only by understanding their templates could he take the right medicine and kill people without leaving a trace. Yes. According to what I know, these two people have a hidden expert as their master. This person is called Qing Mu. He is from the Demon Clan and lives in seclusion. Ordinary Demon Clan members don't know about his existence at all. Only some experts of the Demon Clan call him a prophet. Gu Chaoci's brows were gloomy. In the past few days, she had sent Shen Yu and Luo Yan to the Demon Clan. However, she didn't find out much useful information about Lei Yun and Zhang Jiuji's master. Those who truly understood this sovereign were mostly the core figures of the Demon Clan. Now that Lei Yun had just died, she didn't dare to be too brazen for fear of attracting suspicion. Oh? Mysterious master? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly and smiled. Could it be the famous master Lu Tianming? That's right. This person is extremely mysterious and never comes out. I only found out that he has taken in a total of 6 disciples in the past 300 years. The first 5 are all female disciples with monstrous backgrounds. Lei Yun is ranked 5th. 5 senior sisters? Monstrous backgrounds? Hearing this, a sincere smile finally appeared on Ling Xiao's face. It was very clear that Zhang Jiuji not only had a powerful master, but also 5 powerful senior sisters. With Lei Yun's identity, she was one of the top figures in the Demon Clan. Not to mention being killed, only a few people dared to provoke her. It seemed that the remaining 4 senior sisters of Zhang Jiuji were also very famous. Moreover, these senior sisters were usually involved in different fields. For example, the young master of the demon clan, the saintess of the human clan. Some of them had powerful cultivation, some were beautiful, some were good at playing flutes, some knew music, and some were rich. Interesting, it was getting more and more interesting. Humph! Shameless! Gu Chao Ci snorted coldly, and a trace of coldness flashed across her face. Wife, you misunderstood. I cough. Has the Thunder Dragon clan made any movements recently? Ling Zhao's expression turned cold and he smiled awkwardly. He wasn't smiling at the 5 beautiful senior sisters, but at Zhang Juji, this new leak. However, it seemed that there was no way to explain it. No. The Lightning Dragon race seems to have intentionally concealed the matter of Lei Yun's death. They didn't make any strange movements. This divine lightning is something that accompanied Lei Yun. According to my guess, her master might be related to the Realm Lord. You can settle the remaining matters yourself. I'm tired, I'll return first. After saying that, Gu Chao Ci didn't hesitate at all. She took a step forward and the cry of a phoenix resounded. A cyan phoenix shadow descended from the sky and carried Gu Chao Ci out of the realm of deities. Chapter 1135. Companion Lightning? Ling Xiao lowered his head and looked at the purplish-black lightning sealed in the sacred cauldron. He now understood Gu Chao Ci's temperament very well. Don't be fooled by her cold appearance all day long, but in her heart, she was extremely concerned about his matters. Otherwise, she wouldn't have traveled thousands of miles to the demon territory to investigate the Celestial Wolf clan and the Realm Lord. In the end, Ling Xiao didn't care about the Celestial Wolf clan or the Thunder Dragon clan. However, this woman was afraid that Ling Xiao would be careless and be threatened. This kind of secret concern was rare. However, a demonic genius who was born with divine lightning would most likely have some luck on his body. It was a pity that he was killed by Gu Chao Ci. However, with this lightning companion item, he had a way to deal with Zhang Juji. Moreover, what surprised Ling Xiao even more was that he finally had some clues about the Realm Lord's whereabouts. Qing Mu Supreme? Ling Xiao's expression only turned cold when the phoenix figure disappeared into the horizon. A new storm had appeared. With his current strength, it was very difficult for ordinary heaven's mandate to threaten him. However, it was at this time that he couldn't be careless. Especially now that the Realm Lord was hiding in the dark, a small flaw could bring unimaginable disaster. As for whether that demon prophet was just an empty name or could really see through everything, damn. I didn't kill him. If he really came out and caused trouble for Gu Chao Ci, things would be much simpler. Folded shadow, Xiong Huan, Shi Patian. Following Ling Zhao's shout, 3 silhouettes instantly appeared before him and bowed to him. Master! Folded shadow, take a few shadow guards and personally go to the demon territory. Investigate the recent movements of the Celestial Wolf clan and the Thunder Dragon clan, then find traces of a powerhouse called Qing Mu Supreme. Xiong Huan, Shi Patian, you 2 guard Stupa Abyss. If you find any suspicious youth, immediately send me a message. Ling Xiao said indifferently. The 3 of them immediately bowed and flew towards the horizon. Regardless of the identity of Zhang Juji's 5 senior sisters, everything would come to light once they found Qing Mu Supreme. And now that Ling Xiao already knew the identity of this person of destiny, as long as he stepped into the Azure continent, he would definitely reveal a flaw. At that time, he only needed to set up a chess game, and when he fell into the net, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. After all, Qin Chen was already dead. Now that several months had passed, his influence was gradually fading, and Zhang Juji might be the next person to take the blame. Calculating the time, there was still a little more than a month before the Dao Heaven Manor Lord's lecture. At that time, the Azure Sky realm would be bustling with activity again. As for Ling Xiao, he only needed to hide in the dark, harvest the fortunes, and develop steadily. Sooner or later, this world would fall into his control. After all, Gu Chaoxiai's spy was not as experienced as Dai Shadow. If this great demon entered the demon region to investigate Qing Mu Supreme, there would most likely be some unexpected surprises. At the very least, now that Zi Yan had returned to the clan, with her help in the dark, it would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. Just as Ling Xiao was thinking to himself, a buzzing sound suddenly came from the distant void. Immediately after, a familiar black-clothed figure quietly appeared about 10 feet in front of him. Lord! Guiying? Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed. Previously, when Gu Chaoxiai was attacked by an assassin, he had sent Guiying to investigate the mastermind. Looking at the expression of this former subordinate of the Sky Demon, it seemed like things were not going well. My lord, I followed your orders and tracked down the 2 people from the Xunwu Empire. In the end, they did not return to the Imperial Empire. Instead, they went to the easternmost land. However, they were killed by an earthly supreme expert on their way there. When I captured that supreme being, I only found a token on his body. Before I could check his soul sea, he destroyed his own soul sea. Guiying's expression was terrified. He bowed to Ling Xiao and said, I was careless. It's fine. Where is the token? Ling Xiao's eyes were calm. He was not surprised at all. A force that dared to attack Gu Chaoxiai was definitely a supreme existence in the Azure Sky world. Especially now, everyone in the Azure Sky world knew that Gu Chaoxiai was Ling Xiao's reverse scale. Whoever touched her would die. At this time, someone actually dared to attack Gu Chaoxiai so openly. How could they not be fully prepared? Here. Guiying presented a green ancient token with both hands. From the outside, there wasn't anything special about it. However, the word kill on it faintly revealed a majestic aura. It seemed to be filled with invisible killing intent. The longer he looked at it, the more frightened he was. Kill? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. In the Azure Sky Force, there was only one killing shrine that he knew was named after the killing shrine. However, Ling Xiao was curious. If there was an Earth Supreme or even a Heavenly Supreme expert in this force, how did Xia Chen control this force when he was only an Emperor God? Back when Ling Xiao had killed Xia Chen, he had seen his memories. He had used the name of the Slayer Emperor to create the Slayer Shrine. Could it be that there were other inheritances behind the killing shrine? Interesting. It was getting more and more interesting. However, since the plan had failed this time, the person behind the scenes would not act rashly in the near future. What Ling Xiao wanted to do was to make them let down their guard temporarily. Then, he would find the force behind the killing token and the person behind the killing shrine. Qinyang? Qiluo? According to Ling Xiao's guess, one of them must have some other identity. Ling Xiao had planted a soul seal on Xia Jimeng. However, this girl was brought out of the sect when she was young and grew up in the Void Dao sect. However, the master behind her must know some secrets of the killing shrine. When the time came, Ling Xiao only needed to lure this person out. Everything would come to light naturally. Guiying, continue to hide in the dark and guard Gu Chaoxiai. Don't alert the enemy. Ling Xiao pondered for a moment and said softly. Although Gu Chaoxiai would not meet with any accidents in the near future, the death of a sovereign expert would definitely arouse suspicion. If Ling Xiao was the master of this force, he would also send people to carefully investigate the matter. And with Spirit Shadow's strength, as long as there was the slightest bit of movement, it would not escape his perception. Yes, master. Guiying bowed, and his figure immediately disappeared into the void. Only when he was far away did Ling Xiao turn around and head toward the sacred mountain in the region. At this moment, Xianyuan Weiyang, Jin Han'er, and Yao Guang had been waiting for a long time in front of the sacred mountain's ancient palace. Seeing Ling Xiao land alone, a hint of surprise appeared on the faces of the three girls. Young master, praising the Empress, has left? Xianyuan Weiyang was a little nervous. At this moment, she had already guessed why Gu Chaoci had come here today. It was none other than warning them to pay attention to their words and actions. They should not act recklessly like that dragon girl. Yes. Ling Xiao smiled calmly and walked toward the palace. Oh, that's right. The dragon that Gu Chaoci killed was a demonic woman who would not shrink from any evil. However, this demonic woman has some background. Don't complicate things for the time being. Yes. Young master. Hearing this, the three women were enlightened. No wonder Gu Chaoci dared to act so recklessly. It turned out that there was a secret behind it. Of course, even if she had killed the young master of the Lightning Dragon clan, the three women would not dare to scheme against her. After all, provoking Gu Chaoci was no different from provoking Ling Xiao. Chapter 1136. So it's a demonic dragon causing trouble. We misunderstood and praising the Empress. A wisp of guilt instantly appeared on Xianyuan Weiyang's face as she looked at the black-clothed figure that walked into the palace. No wonder praising the Empress was favored by the young master. She killed the demonic dragon at all costs to get rid of a calamity for the common people. How was she different from the young master? What kind of immortal couple was this? One was gentle and handsome with a unique temperament. He had a noble wish to bring peace to the human race. The other was cold and arrogant. She was originally a domineering empress who was willing to sacrifice everything behind the young master's back. It felt like it was a good thing. Ba. Yaoguang lowered her head and chanted Buddha's name. She seemed to feel that the situation in the Azure world was getting more and more complicated. However, from the beginning to the end, she had a vague feeling that the cause of this chaotic world was Ling Xiao's alone. Was it an illusion? Or was she deceived by him again? Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Suddenly, a ray of golden light shot up into the sky from the Buddha abyss and evolved into many strange phenomena. Vaguely, there seemed to be 9 blood suns across the sky, emitting a dazzling evil light. I finally succeeded. Zhang Jiuji was overjoyed. He looked up to the sky and roared. In his hand there was an ink-colored ancient sword surrounded by multicolored light. It was unrestrained and sharp. The terrifying gravitational force that had enveloped him had finally dissipated completely at this moment. Congratulations, kid! Inyu's figure appeared from the sword and smiled gently at Zhang Jiuji. Haha, it's all thanks to Senior's help. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to suppress the evil energy in the sword. Zhang Jiuji smiled humbly and looked down at the ancient sword in his hand. He could feel that as long as he willed it, the area around him would turn into a domain and manifest infinite gravity. This was the power of the sword. It was called the Buddha domain. It formed a world where Inyu could manifest and help him kill his enemies. Suddenly, Zhang Jiuji's heart was filled with pride. His Tao heart that had been attacked by Gu Chaoci became even more tenacious and urgent. With this sword in hand, what was there to fear even if it was an expert of the Saint realm? Brat, although I can appear in the Buddha domain, you have to know that my identity is somewhat special. Once it is discovered by others, you will be consigned to eternal damnation. So, don't provoke an opponent that is too strong for now. With your saint body, as long as you cultivate step by step, you will step into the sovereign realm sooner or later. The more Inyu looked at Zhang Jiuji, the more she found him pleasing to the eye. Over the past hundreds of thousands of years, it wasn't as if she hadn't encountered any living beings with powerful innate talents. However, none of them were able to control the sword, and in the end, they became the Yin Moon's food. As for Zhang Jiuji, not only did he possess the good fortune saint body, but his mental state and Tao heart could also be said to be flawless. Such a young man had a promising future. Senior, don't worry, I understand. Zhang Juji nodded slightly. The Rakshasa race was the 9 heavens demon race. Of course, he couldn't let anyone know about such a secret. He didn't even plan to tell his 5 senior sisters. After all, once this matter was exposed, he would completely bear the name of an evil demon. Especially now that the sky demon had appeared, all the living beings in the Azure world were already in a state of panic. Any person or force that was close to the demon race would not be able to escape destruction in the end. The celestial wolf race was a good example. Therefore, In Moon could only be used as a trump card to save his life or when he was sure to kill. With the Buddha domain in hand, Zhang Juji could be said to be invincible with his current skills. It was a pity that this sword was not called Zhu Xian. Phew! Senior, you are hiding in the sword. No one should be able to detect it, right? Don't worry. This sword is the sword of the celestial race. It is full of immortal energy and can conceal all auras. As long as I don't show myself, even a heavenly sovereign won't be able to detect it. In Moon smiled confidently, and the last trace of worry in Zhang Juji's heart disappeared. In that case, it's time to go to Dao Sky City and meet up with 5th senior sister. Zhang Juji looked up at the abyss and calculated the time. He had been in the Buddha domain for almost half a month. 5th senior sister should have arrived at Dao Sky City long ago. She should be anxious now, right? Zhang Juji was excited when he thought that he would be able to meet his 2nd senior sister and the others. It was said that the 5 senior sisters each had a powerful background and were peerless in their generation. In that case, the path to immortality had suddenly become a little more beautiful. Father, don't worry. This time, I will be famous in the Azure world and become the light of the generation. When I become a saint of heaven and earth, I will use this glory to ascend to the position of young master. At that time, who among the 10 races of the demon race would dare to look down on the celestial wolf race? However, just as Zhang Juji was fantasizing, In Moon's eyes trembled. She looked up at the void and said, Juji, we should go. Senior, what's wrong? Zhang Juji frowned and looked solemn. He could feel a hint of vigilance from In Moon's tone. Your enemies don't seem to have given up looking for you. In Moon sneered. A trace of doubt flashed in the depths of her eyes. They should be 2 saints. However, one of them has a strange aura. Forget it. Let's leave this place first. Just now, she could feel 2 divine soul fluctuations suddenly spreading out from the void. These 2 fluctuations both contained a wisp of demonic will. However, one of them gave her a very familiar feeling. It was also a little different. It was an extremely terrifying corpse will. However, under the cover of this corpse chi, it was a wisp, impossible. Their realms were not right. Moreover, this world was no longer the place where they could roam freely. Even if some of their old friends were still alive, how could they dare to roam the world in such an unbridled manner? Senior, what's wrong? Zhang Juji seemed to have noticed the complicated expression on In Moon's face. At this moment, he saw a trace of longing and nostalgia in In Moon's eyes. It's nothing. Let's go. You and I have just been born. It's better not to cause trouble. In Moon sighed and returned to the 9 Suns Buddha sword. Let's go this way and avoid those 2 saints. Okay. In the end, Zhang Juji didn't say much. He followed In Moon's instructions and walked deeper into the abyss. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.